Hello, everyone, and welcome to podcast number 80. This is SmashBoxxTV. Joining me here in the Milwaukee studios is Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We're glad that you could be with us here tonight. It's going to be a jam-packed night. If you sit back and think about how long a normal podcast can last, well, tonight I'd say go ahead and strap in because it's going to be a long one. We got a lot of good stuff for you. We're going to bring on Bobby Musick, who is our second place finisher at this weekend's Disc Golf World Tour, the inaugural, or I should say opening event for that series. We're also going to check in with Dana Vici, and we've got Zoe out in California. She's going to catch up with us a little bit, talk to us about what's happening with the daisy chains. I believe she is the tournament director in her grasp. So we're going to talk with them, see what's going on, and learn more about that women's only event. There's a lot of different women's only events going on. Of course, the women's global event, but the daisy chains, they're something to strive for. There's a lot of people that want to look to it and learn from it as to all the successes that they're having. So those are some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight. And then there's just a lot of things going on in just the general disc golf news, besides all of our guests that are going to have great info. The World Tour is obviously a hot topic for a lot of different reasons. We saw new broadcasting by the World Tour group, including Jamie Thomas, Avery Jenkins, Spin TV, along with Disc Golf Planet. So we'll have a conversation about that as well. So there's plenty to go around here tonight. So again, strap in, and hopefully you're excited for our podcast number 80. We got some great viewers out there. We're glad that you're listening and tuning in. I think, do we have any adjustments that we're working on here, Johnny?
Yeah, we're running a little bandwidth issue. I just didn't know if you were doing anything on your computer. Are you uploading stuff? Are you uploading YouTube again?
No. Surprisingly, I'm not doing anything.
I don't believe
it seems to be your fault again.
It might be. But
so we're going to get that worked on. We know that we have our smashies out there, and if you want to stay with us just for a moment here, I'm sure we're going to get it figured out. We've got Dynamite in the trenches. I know he's going to be giving us some good info. Are we ready to cut to him, or do we need you to figure out a few more things first?
Give me 1 second here.
Okay. 1,000, 1,000.
That was last week.
I'll take a few more smashies that are tuning in.
All right, let's see if that works out any better.
Hey-o.
I don't think it is. Look at that. It's still going down. Oh, there, coming back up. All right. Well, we're going to see what we can do here, and we're just going to grin and bear it, I guess.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
All right. So, without further ado, finishing in tied for 12th place. He did not have to play it off. He's going to finish tied for 12th with Drew Gibson. We've got Dana Vici joining us on the show. Dana, how are we doing tonight, buddy?
Oh, you're a piece of work.
Did you not finish tied for 12th?
I did. Why would I play off for 12th place?
Why would you play off for 2nd place? Don't get me started.
I think it was pretty clear. It was for the Disc Golf World Tour points and the awesome trophy.
So is there not points for 12th?
Man, I don't know.
Well, come on. We're talking about playoffs.
I'm not a math numbers guy.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying you didn't have to play it off. That's all I was stating.
I would have beat Drew's ass if I did, though.
Wow. I mean, Drew picked up by DD, left the Innova Discmania family,
Yep.
and you did you hog time? You tied him up, and at the end of the weekend, I mean, he's rated like 20 points higher than you.
Yeah, he is. He played a really good final round. He came up to me afterward and said, "You didn't think I was going to let you beat you, did you?" It was a little snarky. But no, he said he was just throwing him in out of his mind that final round. So yeah, Drew's a heck of a player, and I'm anytime I can beat him or tie him or play around with him, I'm pretty happy. I like Drew.
As do we. We loved having him and loved having him make his announcement. Dane, if you could just stand down for 1 second here. It seems as if we're not. Now we're not. We're all fixed. All right, just kidding. It seems like our smashies are telling us that there was a little lag here, but I guess we're ready to go. All right, so let's move right on into it with a little of that precursor there about the World Tour. But You're the traveling man. A couple of weeks ago, went out to California. You were working with Disc Golf Park in terms of your position with them to talk course installation strategies and team and company strategies. And then you forewent, of course, being at the Memorial, but you brought yourself back out to the World Tour. How was your experience?
It's a good experience. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. It was a professionally ran event. Course was pretty great. It was very hard. Those are two things I enjoy. Actually, three things: a well-run event, a hard course, and whatever else I was talking about. But I played good too. That was pretty awesome. First event of the year, first event with Discmania discs, and I put up some pretty solid rounds, and I'm happy about it.
What was working well for you? I mean, you came from the Midwest. It's been winter time. All of those types of things. You didn't have any warm up at the Gentlemen's Club or at the Memorial or anything like that. Were you just really well rested? Were you really focused? What do you think was part of that recipe for greatness?
One of the keys was just going out there and keeping it in perspective and having fun. I got off the tee for the most part really well and put myself in position to score birdies. If you check out the disc golf metrics, I believe I was in sixth place, or ranked sixth for green hits. So I got inside the circle quite a bit, and even though I missed a lot, I was in there a lot, so I did make some, and that's I think I only had maybe one. I averaged one out of bounds per round. Maybe I had 3 or 4 on the weekend. So I add all those up together, and that's a recipe for 12th place.
Tied for 12th.
Tie for 12th. Excuse me, with Drew Gibson.
Needless to say, I mean, when people win tournaments, one of the first things they always talk about is, oh, well, I had a lot of fun. And I always think, well, of course you do. Winning's never not fun. But it sounds like you had an all-around really good, fun time. And you performed above your rating overall when it was all said and done.
Yeah. And I hung out with some, it was, like you said, I hadn't gone to the Memorial or Gentlemen's Club, so it was good to go out and see all my friends from Disc Golf Tour. And unfortunately, a number of them walked right past me. Can you guess why?
No.
So my beard is kind of back now, but I had completely shaven beard, short hair, which I don't know when I got a haircut, but literally people would walk right past me, and then I could hear, like, in the crowd or people, that's Stanovici? I swear, I'm not lying, no more than a dozen, at least a baker's dozen, times did people walk right past me.
Wow. Maybe you should have had your Smashbox shirt on where you'd be more recognized.
Yeah. Or maybe that's why, because I'm on here telling them that I beat them in a 12th place playoff. That's why they walked right past me.
So La Mirada was set up in a slightly different configuration. So if somebody went out there next week, they're not going to see the holes that you saw.
No.
And you said that they made things tougher overall. I think that was in a prior conversation between you and I. But they definitely made things tougher to challenge our players a little bit greater. Is that correct?
Yes. So normally La Mirada is 2 18-hole courses, and they essentially turned each 18 into 9 holes. And this is nothing new there. They've done that for the Golden State layout in years past. But most of the tees were moved back even further, another direction even further, adding another level of difficulty. And I thought it worked out really well, and that's one of the reasons you saw a number of mandatories out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's because UC and crew did move tees in different directions that they're not normally at, and so in order to take away like any a hyzer route down the path, put up a mandatory, and I thought it worked out really well. But it was hard. It was not easy.
And I know this is actually a pretty I don't know if it's an obscure question, but with you being part of Disc Golf Park, is there any chance of you being, we'll say, more involved on the World Tour components? Like, will you be at any of the other 3 overseas events in any kind of official role or capacity outside of just as a competitor, or anything of that nature?
Not in 2000. What year is it? 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Not currently planned. And as for the future, who knows? Maybe it hasn't been discussed, but I'd like to go to Europe and play or help out or do whatever. But no, not currently am I on staff or anything with the Disc Golf World Tour.
So maybe what I'm hearing you say is you would like to be a roving reporter for SmashBoxx overseas. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I can work alongside with Spin TV, right?
We're, as Jamie said, if some people saw the picture I posted earlier today, and I called it Transformation Tuesday. I put up on Facebook and Instagram a picture from almost exactly 2 years ago, and it was Avery and I doing co-commentating at the Bowling Green Amateur Championships. Simon Lizotte had previously run through and did all of our hole previews using a putter on these 450-foot holes. No big deal. Of course, he was out driving them. And Jamie Thomas was graciously our cameraman for that live broadcast. So, you say I like to use the hashtag Frisbee family, and that was all part of it way back in the day. That was it was awesome. It was awesome how it all unfolded, and the fact that we were even there, practicing and honing our skills, as that was the first month we were ever live with SmashBoxx. So being able to be part of the Bowling Green AMs and cover that, and have Jamie and Avery and Simon, like I said, quite a transformation. All these 2 years later, here we all are.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to some other events. For those that don't know, Bobby Musick finished second at the World Tour, so we're going to get really in depth with him after we're done talking to Dana. But Dana's going to give us a few other updates from around the rest of the country and some other events that he looked into for this weekend. So let's hear it.
Sure. And before I get to those, I actually I want to share I got to play with Bobby Musick during the final round, and it was awesome. We literally, not to spill the beans, but we literally walked by his childhood home on the course.
Isn't it right off of like hole 5 or something like that?
Yep. And then I shortly thereafter took a double bogey 6 after being 15 feet away. I had 3 rollaways. But anyways,
that's on the metrics.
Yeah, it was awesome to play with Bobby, and he put up a great round, and I'll let you guys talk to him more about it later.
Okay.
It was super cool to, play with him on his home track right there.
Very cool. Awesome.
But as for the rest of the country, spring-like weather, it's kind of popping up, right? I guess this weekend might be kind of rough, but last weekend looked pretty good. Good friend Kale Leviska went back-to-back down in Kansas City, winning both of the Dynamic Disc ran events, the Can-U Wyco, and then the Rosedale Cup. Hashtag Disc Golf Rich for Kale. Down in Escondido, California, aka San Diego, young Connor Wright took down the Daniel Bowe Memorial, which was sponsored by DGA, in the advanced division. It was the AM weekend for the Daniel Bowe. I'm not sure when Connor's legacy sponsored. Is that right, Terry? Have you had the chance to meet him yet?
Yeah, Connor's an awesome kid. He was. I met him out in Sylmar last year. He actually came and performed quite well at the memorial last year. Super good kid. His family and mom and stepdad, I believe, take him everywhere and really support him. Legacy, has been taking really good care of him, and he's just an all-around really good kid with unlimited potential. I think when I originally met him, he was like 12. So I know he's not that much older. I don't know if he's 13 or 14 or 15 now, but he's a young gun and quite a stud with a lot of skills. And I'll follow you up. You had mentioned Daniel Bowe. I recall the day we actually interviewed UC and we were talking about the World Tour debuting. our friend Mark Verocchi over at DGA, he was concerned that that World Tour event may conflict with the Daniel Bowe event, and so he actually had it locked in as his date. And then once the World Tour came in down the road, figuratively down the road by a few hours, he actually forewent the pro side. So it wasn't supposed to be a pro, AM weekend split. In fact, he just had no pros this year at all.
Okay.
And he kind of bowed down to the World Tour coming to town. And I know that was one of his concerns. And I remember if the World Tour was going to even be sanctioned or not. Initially, it wasn't clear. And so it's unfortunate because it sounds like the World Tour then kind of came over the top of the Daniel Bowe event. And so he, at one point, I talked to him a few weeks ago, and he said, the pros are all going to be there, so we're just going to run an AM-only event. So I think that was how that all came about. So there's no pro weekend for the Daniel Bowe.
Okay.
If that clarifies anything.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, Connor, awesome kid. Now, did you see? I think it was with him. I saw a playoff putt by somebody on Facebook saying, I had to hit this putt to then win the eventual playoff. Now, do you know if that was Connor's situation? Do you recall? I
do not. Johnny V, did you catch that?
Nope.
Who am I kidding? Johnny V didn't catch that. And that was a joke, everybody.
No, and I say it because it was somebody. I do apologize. Somebody on Facebook, they canned like a 60 or 70 footer and said this putt was to tie it and to push it into the playoff. I eventually won, and I don't recall who the person was that made the putt, but it was phenomenal to see this huge putt, to know that that's what pushed them into the playoff. So maybe one of our Smashies can clarify out there, if our Smashies are listening with our low signal, that is.
Here at home in Illinois, the basket cases ran their annual March into Madness, in which lefty Al Hermosillo won quite handily. He actually popped off a 1065 rated round one and then cruised to the victory from there. So nice work, Alan. I think, Terry, you might be seeing him this weekend down at Throwdown the Mountain.
I believe that I will. Yes, I will be heading down to Florida, and I believe he's one of the guys signed up. So we'll see if
he shoots another 1065. I bet you'll be seeing a lot of them.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
You looking forward to that?
Yeah, it should be awesome.
Nice. So that's about it for events this last weekend. Unless you guys saw something that I need to address.
No. I mean, obviously there was a lot of hype, a lot of talk, a lot of coverage, interviews, photos, all that other stuff going on over at the World Tour. I think that for the most part caught everyone's attention. I had made the reference or the comment more than once that it felt actually kind of nice to sit back and watch live disc golf and not being the one to work for it, to make it happen. I usually don't ever watch the broadcast that we put out, so it was nice to be able actually to take in some of the action. Did you go back? I mean, it's a little bit, I'll say, more consumable at 2.5 hours. Were you able to go back and watch some of the footage?
Just a little bit. I've watched some of the hole by hole coverage that they've been releasing on the Spin TV. I watched a little bit of the Back Nine live that they did produce, and I've watched, and then some of the pre-round interviews for comedic purposes. I won't tell you who I went to go watch, but I checked it out, and then definitely spent a lot of time over at the Flight Record checking out all of Stu's pictures. He can literally make anybody look good. He took a picture of me, and he had to have touched it up. I don't know, because I look really handsome.
Oh, wow. Who said that, your wife or your daughter?
Well, my 8-month daughter does not talk yet.
Well, that's why I was wondering if she's the one that said it.
Oh.
So anyways, as I was saying before, Johnny's junk internet got us shut down.
Guilty.
Did you guys watch live? Follow the metrics? What was your week? It was kind of late here in the Midwest, so this is happening after work hours. Did you guys get in on it?
We did. I did, at least. I watched. Quality. I mean, it was the best live broadcast in history, right? That's what I heard.
That's what I read.
No, in all seriousness, they did a good job. I mean, it was typical Disc Golf Planet stuff. I mean, there was nothing as far as the live broadcast that I could see on our side. There was nothing special about it. They had some nice assets. They had some nice commercials. They only went 9 holes, which was kind of unfortunate.
I think surprising more than anything.
We found that out just a little bit, a week or so ahead of time.
Oh, I didn't even know it was that far.
I had heard at least a couple days before that they were only going to do it like that. So, but it looked fine and it played fine. I watched it on my TV and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we all know, and I perspectives that they bring. There's, for as many people as I saw, saying, oh, these guys are horrible, there was just as many people saying these guys are great, or, we like Terry, or we like Ian at Central Coast, or we like so-and-so. And I just keep saying, you line up Joe Buckner, or Joe Buck, you line up Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Troy Aikman, you line up all of the broadcasters, we'll say in the NFL, and every one of them has their pocket of fans and their pocket of haters. So there's no winning in that case. And I know I don't take it personal. I think they did a great job. And I think they bring, like I said, a different perspective. They've emphasized what I've been saying for a long time, which is when you have 2 people, I think overall the broadcast can be better. You have somebody to play off of. You have somebody's additional thoughts. There's a distinct advantage to it. There's also a distinct added cost to it. So I don't think it's a big secret that Spin TV and the World Tour has a large financial investment in what they're doing for media, and that's proven by having top photographers like Stu there and doing what they did. And I think it's great. I mean, they've made a very large investment as to what they did. Now, financially, I don't know what they spent, but I'm going to assume it's considerably more than what we.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that can be done in ways that it could go with. So I think they did a great job.
The little part that I did have a chance to catch up on, I really think Avery, it's unbelievable the amount of knowledge Avery has. Mm-hmm. I've picked that up in hanging out with him over the years, but he knows so much about disc golf, and I think that he grew up
in a disc golf family. He's a world champion. He's toured.
A student. He's a student of the game.
Yeah, and he's toured more than almost any other player, other than probably Felberg.
Well, but anyways, I think it's gonna be fun to watch Avery develop in front of the camera. He's been doing the Deep in the Game and a lot of promotional stuff over the years with the clinics and everything, but it's a little bit of a different beast with the live. And I believe that was one of the reasons that they did go with the 9 holes, is because it was Jamie's first time going with the live, Avery's first time, and a lot, as Terry and I talked about, a lot fewer things can go wrong in 9 holes versus 18.
Exactly.
And then for them to do it for their first time, it seems like a smart move, even though the disc golfers at home probably wanted to see all 18, but all 18 holes are available now, and they dip their foot in, and we'll see where they go from there.
That was my next question, and you're clearly probably not privy to any of the information, but when is the next time they're gonna go live? Is it going to be over in Europe? I'm guessing they might do the same thing they did last year with the European Open with that big production company. I think that'd be kind of cool, because Avery and Jamie did a great job there. And then if not there, then USDGC is the next, United States stop. So I'll be curious to see if they can because it's going to be tough to get into a groove if you only do it every 5 months. So I hope we get to see more of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. And I believe I saw, Jamie Thomas speak pretty openly on Disc Golf Course Review. He made a post either today or yesterday, and it's a challenge doing the live stuff. And it didn't seem like it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. And one can only imagine that. it'll get better. Just as you guys have, you started out and now you're kicking butt and getting better and better. So
clearly, as the beginning of this show proves,
yeah.
that we've got live under control.
Super easy for us. No, what I'll say, a lot of people talk, as you just mentioned, Avery's knowledge and insight. I love it, and it makes me think. With my time in the game, I think I have a lot of that same knowledge and insight. However, I don't necessarily bring it to the table as often. And
it's tougher
maybe,
with one person. I think that's what I'm thinking. Like you've got to cover both roles that Jamie and Avery were covering, and when Jamie can play, the typical stuff and throw it to Avery as he did. Like, Avery, talk about this hole. It's a lot tougher with one person. We've discussed that over and over. But I think they did a good job. Yeah.
So it's but it does open my eyes to think about more things that I could actually talk about.
Oh yeah.
Whether he's talking about landing on the high side and the green and the spin and landing on the high side and all those different things. Those are things that I know as well, and I don't want to sound like I'm those are things that I know, but I don't necessarily share as much. And Avery proves that I should share more of that because it is there. It is something that's available to people that I may not just necessarily put out there. And he brought it to light that those are great insights that need to be shared. So it was fun. It was good to see, and we're looking forward to more of it.
Yeah, as I always say, the more people in this industry, the better it's going to be for everybody. So
and I will go ahead and touch real briefly on you're a disc golf park guy, Discmania guy, and such, and we've had support. Sure. I've had support from Innova, whatever. There was some criticism as to the sponsor mentions or drops. Those don't impact me like I think they did a lot of other people. So I think some people took that as a little bit in your face, and I'll say kind of what I've heard Jamie say and what I know, which is those companies are the ones that are hopefully paying the bills, or helping pay the bills. Now we have the luxury that we're not necessarily underwritten by any one company all the time. So I think it maybe comes off as a little more passive for us. But I did as Jamie does. I say, hey, we got to thank, Discraft, or we got to thank so-and-so when we're at the memorial. I think that it comes about a little differently when they're already an Innova-based product, and then Innova's giving them more Innova, and I think that's why it was maybe perceived that way a little bit. And I don't know that that's a fair criticism of them, but it was one that was out there as well. But we'll see how things shake out. It was great. To see.
Whatever I can tell you, whatever coverage there's going to be, if I'm not playing in a tournament, I'm definitely going to have my phone out or have the TV on and the metrics or live coverage or whatever it might be. Because as a numbers stat junkie, even though I hate math, I love the metric stuff, and I love knowing all these things, and that I can go back and click and see how many putts I made in the circle, how many I made outside the circle, only one, and green hits and all these other things. So exciting stuff, and more coverage, more disc golf. We're safe to say we're moving in the right direction.
For sure. And Avery said it on my Instagram post today. He said, now I realize just how much work it really is to do things and the production that goes into it. So even having someone like Avery, who's seen so many facets of disc golf and so many components and been involved in so many ways, when someone like him understands and can relate that to others, I think that's going to open some eyes as well.
Yeah.
What do they say? If it's easy, if something's so easy, everybody'd be doing it. There's a reason not everybody even attempts it at this point. So, all right, pal. I think we're going to cut you loose. We've got Bobby Musick lined up. We're excited to hear about specifically about his experience over at the event. Obviously a solid performance, and we're excited to hear more from him. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, let me real quick. I do want to give a big hug to Katrina, who, for one thing, she was one of the people that walked past me and didn't recognize me.
Yep.
So we've known each other for a while and are friends. But for going out and playing her heart out and she had a really strong event, played with Macbeth for a round and had a big crowd and playing with the guys, whatever. Big hug to Kat. She came up a stroke short of the cash, but she was out there, gave it a shot, and she was one of many that walked past me, for you Smashies that were wondering.
And as you said, just one out of the cash.
Yep. She's pretty good at Frisbee.
Yeah, she certainly is.
So with that, good luck with your internet. I am going to bed. I'm exhausted because Edith got up at 5 a.m. this morning. She doesn't know about this whole time change stuff.
Yeah, don't get me started. My daughter was up from like 1:30 to 3, so. Ugh.
Bar time.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
All right, boys.
All right, have a good night. Thank you,
Thanks,
Dana.
Dana.
Thanks for sticking with us, buddy. All right, and so in just a few moments here, we're going to be pulling up Bobby Musick as we've some of you that are joining the show a little bit late or possibly couldn't join. We do apologize. Working through a.
Yeah, my phone is up by the window to make sure I get good enough signal, and it's on a hotspot. So I'm really hoping that Verizon doesn't cut me off.
That we don't have any other kind of silly issues or anything.
I'm going to get yelled at by work, I'm sure, this month. Like, what did you spend so much data on?
It is what it is. I mean, come on, we got a show to do.
We do have a show to do,
and we got to figure out what's going on with our boys over here at Time Warner.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a good yell.
So some kind of issue. So, like I said, in just a moment here, we're gonna dial up one Bobby Musick. We're gonna get his account of the Disc Golf World Tour event. I'll say it as we're getting him ready here. Bobby hasn't always been a household name. He toured and played pretty extensively when he was a little bit younger, and now we're seeing him back on the scene quite a bit more last year and this year. And with that introduction, let's welcome Bobby Musick to the show. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you, Terry?
Good. We're working through some issues, and we're glad to have you, and everything good on your end. So Dana had mentioned a few minutes ago that you guys not only played together, but you were right across the street from where you grew up, and I believe that's where you learned to play some disc golf.
Yep. Yeah, I grew up right on hole 13.
Okay.
In La Mirada Original when it was a 27-hole course. And that's where I made all my connections and met all my friends that I have now.
Yeah, so, and you and I had a talk last year, and you were out on tour last year. You had kind of slowed down for a few years. I mean, you came out, you were really young, you played a lot, you were very successful, traveling and good friends with the likes of Steve Rico and others, and working at Innova and other stuff. But then you were kind of a 2 to 5 person tournament a year kind of guy, but not so much for the last year and a half.
No. Well, I just hung out in SoCal, really. That was my main thing, and usually had a side job. And this last year, I kind of started working with the YMCA, teaching a program on disc golf, and got flexible enough that I can go and tour a little bit. And something I've been missing, in my career. I haven't really traveled that much, and last year was just a taste,
Yeah, and you've got quite a, we'll say, Frisbee history. Like you said, growing up across the street from La Mirada. At one point, you were an actual employee over at Innova, and you've been good friends with Steve Rico and the whole Legacy crew, sponsored by them. And then this year, you transitioned to playing with Latitude. Tell everyone a little bit about your history. I know I kind of just briefly went over it, but talk a little bit about your Frisbee history.
Well, it all started once again across the street from the park. I grew up and really met Dave Dunapace at a young age, maybe around 8 years old, 8 to 10. Just he was the older guy in the park that I would climb a tree, get his disc, and it didn't have a stamp on it. And right there, something was up with this guy. So I followed him around, and he'd stick it up a tree. The first time I met him, I climbed it and gave it to him, and he's like, "For every disc you find, I'll give you 2."
Damn.
So this is my type of guy.
That's a great deal, yeah.
I know. I wish stocks worked that way or something.
What time do you play? That was my first question. What time do you play? So I'd wake up early in the morning, and I'd catch them getting around hole 13 around 9 a.m. So I'd meet them by 15 and play the rest around with them, became really good friends, and started working at Innova around 2000 to about 2004. I worked at Innova.
Okay.
And those are, great years to make discs, great discs, and I kept playing with them on and off, and life has different different turns, and I just couldn't stay at Innova forever. And that
Mm-hmm.
led me into Legacy. And me and Stevie, you know, with Rico, we just go back 20 years because we've been playing 20 years, over 25 years for me. So it was just a natural bond that we had, and it clicked, and we worked well together. And then this year, they wanted to focus a little bit more on the company and not as much touring. And that was where I was kind of like, oh, I need to move on and maybe branch off. And couple phone calls later, I'm on with Latitude talking to Dave Felberg and getting hooked up with them and pursuing my dream still.
Which is awesome because, like you said, every company has a little bit different dynamic as to where they're going and what they're doing and what their goals and objectives are, and it's no slight on them, but Latitude's not shy about picking up players.
Not
I
at
think
all.
we've talked about that with Felberg, and you're obviously a solid pickup. Now you've been performing pretty well. I mean, I think we all know no matter whose plastic you're throwing, you've got the chance to excel and perform well, but since throwing some Latitude plastic, you've had a pretty solid opening start to this year.
Yes, thank you. It's become like really, in my sense, I just getting familiar with the plastic, and after I get a familiarity with the different types of discs, being in the business and making discs at Innova, I really have that experience of knowing what a good feeling disc and what a bad feeling disc feels like. So like just strictly grabbing a disc and looking at it, I can kind of tell what it's going to do and how good of a disc it's going to be. And with the transfer, I asked Dave, I have Ricky, I have a lot of guys that are open to let me know, oh, try this. Oh, if you like that, I know your game. You'll try this and you'll excel. So that helped out a lot.
Well, let's speak specifically about the World Tour event.
Okay.
It came to La Mirada, as you said, grew up right across the street. You've seen, at one point, just about every shot and probably every blade of grass, at that course. And I think it's frequent to say that sometimes there's a little added pressure playing on your home turf because you've thrown so many shots and maybe you take something for granted or let your guard down, but it didn't seem to bite you at all this week.
No, it's always it's always tough to deal with the crowds and stuff because you have the typical Paul McBeth crowd that's everyone, and then I have just a subset of local players that are watching and rooting for me, and it's an everyday thing that really I've come accustomed to it because of growing up across the street from the park and having fans and family members mostly, and it doesn't really affect me, but at the same time, yeah, there's a little bit of added pressure being the hometown and having everyone there and perform my best. I tried to give Paul a run for his money, That's all I could do.
You made a good run for a while.
I did, and I didn't really notice how close I was until Stewart came at around hole 10, and he's like, "UC told me that you're on fire and you're like catching Paul." And come and film them. And I was like, oh, man. Like,
yeah.
Then I went to the live coverage real quick on my phone, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm within one. He's at 1 under through 9,
Yep.
and I'm at, like, 7. Going, wow, this could happen. Like, and then a par streak happened. And I think word got back to Paul, too, as well, because he birdied, like, 4 in a row. He caught fire right then and there and left me behind, but hey, second isn't bad,
No, it's not. So we were ribbing Daniel a little bit about his tie for 12th, but in terms of the tie, we realized that was in fact for World Tour points.
Yes.
But you've played 20 some years. You got to admit you're not used to playing in a tie for second place. Were you
For a
excited?
playoff?
Yeah, a playoff. Were you
Yeah.
excited to go back out there? Did it matter to you?
It didn't matter. UC told me as soon as I finished, he told me that if there was a tie, we would be playing it off.
Okay.
And I looked at the score and where Ricky was sitting, I'm like, well, he's probably got 18. 18's a nice little hyzer shot, or he threw a roller on the outside and threw it to about 25 feet, 30 feet. And I'm like, well, I just wanted him to just hit it. Well, I don't even want to worry about it. I just had my eyes closed. And when I heard the grill, I'm like, all right. And UC's like, get to the tee. And I'm like, all right. And this hole it's a double island hole.
Yep.
That is, I mean, if you don't make the second shot onto the island, you go to a drop zone.
Yep.
If you miss it off the tee, you just go from regular OB rules. And so I throw my first shot and it goes straight OB.
Yep.
And automatically I'm going, oh well, great. This is a great. Here you go, Ricky. And he throws it inbounds, and his upshot comes up a little short. And I'm going, well, that's a 5. And I'm laying like 3. I throw it up, get my 4. I could win this.
Yep.
So it was really a nice little. I threw my judge a nice little flip putter shot onto that island, and hit my 15-footer and secured second place.
Okay. Now, do you call it second place, or will you tell people you tied for second?
It's tied for second.
Yeah, no, and I only say that because it's always funny when you check Facebook come Sunday night, Monday morning, and somebody will always say, I tied for the win this weekend, and then you look and you're like, no, you lost the playoff, but you'll always say I tied for the win.
That's right. You either win or you tied for the win.
Yeah, it's funny when people always reference it. But the 3 rounds, let's talk a little bit about that. That's the World Tour format. Give or take, does it influence you whatsoever, the 3-round action? One day around?
No. It's nice. It's nice to have Sunday as a travel day. It's tough in the middle of the week because some people got jobs and stuff like that to get off on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or to go play the courts and stuff. But I like the format. I like the 3-day, and then Sunday be kind of relaxed day, and then get back to traveling on Monday.
So we saw a post from Stu Mullenberg, which we're going to talk about later in the show, but he was out there doing photography, and then there was just an onslaught of media everywhere. Disc Golf Planet, Spin TV, the whole 9 yards. What's your take? I mean, you've been around the game a long time. Is this the natural progression? Do you see more events should be aspiring to that kind of atmosphere? What's your take on that?
It was definitely it was a fun event, and as a player, you try not to focus on it in the game. You try to just do what you're supposed to do: go play, go perform. But after the round, I'd look around, I'd look at the cameras, the film crew, and everything, and thought, well, this is what we need to progress the game. Thank you, UC and the tour, for it being so big. I mean, it's a first year, and my expectations were met by all my standards. It's probably one of the best tournaments I played in La Mirada, and I've been playing there since the 90s. So that should speak loudly to people, that UC put on a good job, and that hopefully the future is in the media and getting everything broadcast, and what you're doing. I love everything that it's progressing into.
Well, I think one thing that stands head and shoulders above the rest is that, of course, UC and his Discmania and Innova Roots and all that other stuff, it doesn't matter who you play for. It doesn't matter who your sponsor is. Everything we've heard overwhelmingly about the event itself has been positive.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite parts about this, whether it's, a Vibram, the Vibram Open, obviously presented by Vibram, or this event, or any given event put on by any given manufacturer. If that TD and that event puts on a good event, they get the kudos that they deserve. So I think that's great to hear.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing. No bad words. I didn't hear nothing said bad about the course or the way everything was ran. It was beautiful.
Now, we talked a little bit about Katrina and being the sole woman that was in the event. There was extended offers to a couple of women. Do you feel like maybe some of our other pro women we'll just say missed out on a great opportunity to be part of that?
I mean, they have their opinion on how they grow their sport, because it's hard to say that they missed out, because Katrina, I mean, she did so well. And I know, if Paige would have came, or a couple of the other girls could have came, they would have did equally as good. They could have easily beat, on any given day, some of the top best pros, men. So they might not have missed out, but I would have loved to have seen them out here, supporting us, and I'm sure they'll get back into the game and more or less support the tour,
Sure.
because it's a progressive thing that they're trying to push it for everyone. It might not be women oriented, but hey, some women need to try to work with us here,
Yeah.
and we're trying to get everything situated so it benefits everyone.
Well,
and as I said, Terry and I were talking earlier, nothing is set in stone as far as next year. I mean, this could be a 1-year thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a 5-year thing. Who knows what UC's grand vision is? But they, I would have loved to have seen Paige go up on that course as well. That's what I kept thinking is, Kat played above her rating and almost cashed. She did phenomenal, and she had some rough breaks out there. You could see, a couple bad rolls, and I think she was poised to play pretty well.
Well, and if you think about it this way, and it's something I'm not a genius or anything, I just thought of this, but if there were 3 women that played, that's exactly 1 more payout spot. Yeah. So had, there been 2 more women, whether it was Kat or a different woman that got in there could have been that chance for 1 more payout spot. And us talking about Katrina, for instance, just missing it literally by a stroke. So if you look at it that way and think, okay, if we would have had the 3. But again, that's a whole nother conversation. We know Sarah Hokum made a very, very
pointed.
Pointed, yeah. Thanks on good pun. A very pointed post about it, and I think we can get to that later. But what were some of the other takeaways? Well, let me ask it this way: this is the first stop. We know that the USDGC is the final stop. We know that you were in the playoff for the points, but do you see yourself traveling to 1, 2, or 3 of the middle European events, or no?
No, probably not. Probably do USDGC. This was kind of one of those things. It was at my home course. I had to take advantage of it and support all that I can, all about La Mirada. But I will do USDGC. It's kind of far stretch to go to, the Czech Republic and Estonia. It's just, and then get back to, I think, GBO, and we got stuff in the States that I'm gonna focus more on than traveling abroad.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Last year, I saw you at a number of events, quite a few events. I think we may even shared a room or two. But where, we'll keep that for the after show. Where do we see? Where are we going to see you this year on tour?
This year, I'm really, it comes down to I'm picking and choosing all the good ones. Okay. Unfortunately, no Masters Cup for me. I'm gonna I'm gonna do KC Wide Open, and GBO. It's up in the air. I'm not sure about GBO, but KC I will do. Beaver, Vibram, King of the Lake. I gotta do Majestic. I had a great time out there. And then Worlds, Leadstone, USDGC, and there's going to be, that's just a rough draft of, what I'm going to be doing, and then some might get added in. Okay. But hope to see you at all those.
Yeah, I was just going to say, whether
you'll be at a majority of them.
Whether you like it or not, I'll be at most of those. So it sounds like you got a pretty busy tour lined up this year. Who are you gonna be rolling with? Are you gonna be traveling around when we see people like Drew Gibson hop in with the DD van and doing that kind of route? Are you gonna be flying in and out, or what's your plan?
Flying in and out with most of them, and then I'm gonna be hooking up with my good friend Peter McBride.
Yep. Okay.
He's gonna be driving out to a lot of them, and he was going solo. And when I talked to him, I'm like, well, I'm in. I was gonna fly to most of them, but if you need a roll dog, let's go. And Sweet. So he's gonna be one of my main travel partners, for the year. But I'll be flying in and out for some of the big ones and some of the ones that I just can't do that 11, 12, 13-hour drive.
Sure. I'm with you. 8 hours is like my max of driving these days.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah.
So you listed most of the Pro Tour events. I think almost all of them. Is Green Mountain possibly the only one, the final one, that and the finals that go along with it? Is that the only one you didn't necessarily list?
That's the one up in the air. That's the Vermont.
Yep, Vermont.
Yeah, that's the one up in the air. I'm still, because I was thinking about doing it, but Peter can't do it. He's got some obligations he's got to do. So maybe that might be one of those fly-in things that I'll do at the end.
Yeah, certainly an amazing event. And it's going to be wrapping up the Pro Tour. And I think if you find yourself in the right position in the Pro Tour finals, you're going to go.
It could be lucrative.
You definitely are going to want to try and take it in if you can. So last year, as you toured around extensively, kind of got more on the national scene. what were some of the takeaways? What were some of your fondest memories, or things that, or maybe even events or places or courses? What were some of the things that stuck out most for you?
Where do you begin? I mean, geez, meeting you when we hung out in Texas, when we did the Nick Hyde Memorial. That was
Yep.
a fun event. Europe, obviously, yeah. Sweden and Finland was a great experience for me. I've never been to Europe, so that was fun, and the disc golf was amazing. This year, wow, USDGC was a crazy one this year.
Yep.
Full rain and all kinds of weather. Um, Pittsburgh was awesome.
Yeah,
That was
playing in the
great.
Worlds.
Yes, the Worlds had some great courses in there that just left me in awe, like just a dream come true. And of course, Wisconsin, the Mad City Open. That was a fun event for me. I had a great time.
Good. Yeah, we're. I know they're looking forward to another big year here for the Mad City Open, and then just the Midwest is going to be hopping. I mean, we always have been blessed with great courses, great people. Lots of really organized tournaments and the scene. But this year, knowing that the Pro Tour is going to be hanging out in the Midwest, large in part, and then Am World's taking place here in Wisconsin. The Midwest is where it's at.
Yeah,
So,
it is.
I mean, all you Californians might think you're, the trendsetters and all, but out here, Midwest. I don't know. I don't have a symbol.
Don't do that.
Anyway,
Don't do that.
Some Midwest symbol. I don't know. Any other thoughts about the World Tour and the overall, how to say it, just the world and the experience for you? When you think about.
Well, I was going to ask about the course itself. You
Okay,
obviously grew up across the street from it. Were there any holes that you played this past weekend where you went, I never saw this. I never thought about, I never thought to put this here and do it this way. I've played here for 20 plus years. Was there anything that stuck out to you?
The course, UC, he didn't really create something different from the Golden State layout. It was
Okay.
he took kind of the similar flow of the Golden State layout and extended some of the tee pads, or made some different, alternate, little changes to make them tougher, and drew lines everywhere. He made sure that it wasn't just throw it as hard as you can and worry about the repercussions and throw your up shots and tap in eagles, tap in pars. No, he made it so you had to actually throw good position shot, make a putt. And the flow was really good. I loved it. It was something familiar to me because of the Golden State layout, but you had to still play really clean because of all the lines and OBs. And I had a little issue, with the how 15, 16, or 16, 17, and 18 shared the same fairway, kind of.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know. I just don't see it working. But he made 17 that island hole, a double island, and it kind of eliminated the friction between 16 and 18 coming by it. So that worked out beautifully. I was super happy with that, because that was my one thing that I was like, oh, this could be, because we got spotters, we got marker, we got all kinds of people out there, and three groups coming into one section. Thought it was gonna be tough, but he pulled it off. He made it ride real smooth.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like he was out there, from what I could see on the live broadcast. He was out there directing traffic. He was giving okays and goes, and he did not just sit back on his laurels and let other people do the work. That's for sure.
No, yeah, he was out there 100% painting lines. He did all the work. He was out there months in advance, setting it all up too as well.
It's cool.
Now, one of the conversations, because we saw rain and sunshine and everything in between, one of the recurring questions was the tee pads. Did you have any take on those turf-like tee pads? How would you best describe them for somebody that hasn't physically touched one?
They're basically just like AstroTurf. You put a little sand on it, and it grips a little bit better, and that's what they did. They laid them out, made them flat, laid them out, threw a little bit of sand on it, and in rain, sun, it stuck very well. And it would have been a lot harder to be teeing off those concrete pads that we have at La Mirada than what you see, those AstroTurf pads that UC brought. I performed well off of them. I thought they're great. Something that I would definitely look into for the club for La Mirada future, because sometimes the tee pads get very old or worn out, and it's hard to throw off of them, especially in the rain.
Yeah, concrete, as we all know, if it's not maintained or replaced every 5 to 8 years, they do get slick at the end and they start to lose that grip.
Yep.
Yeah, that can be one of the challenges. Those are the two, well, I'll say, most common criticisms, is that the grip can be lost, and then some people will tell you that they're bad on their knees.
Sure.
I could understand that too.
I just wonder how long, and I haven't, obviously they've been overseas for a while, how long they will hold up compared to a concrete tee pad. If you pour a concrete tee pad, and we'll say the average lifespan is 5 to 8 years, how long is one of these, is the AstroTurf going to hold up? Is it going to start to rip or tear? Is it going to be something that has to be replaced every 2 to 3, or will it go 5 to 8 like the concrete? I think hopefully we'll get to see some more of these throughout the country, and we'll be able to figure these things out.
Now, you played on those overseas. Can you speak to that at all, Bobby, in terms of playing on any of those tees overseas anywhere?
Yeah, they were the same. They were very similar. They had same thing at St. Jude, at the St. Jude event. That we used the same type of tee pads over as in Europe and in La Mirada. Those shag kind of look a high shag AstroTurf with sand on them to keep them still and keep them grippy. And I like them. I prefer them, actually. I thought I gripped well off of them. It's outside of just regular grass, because I always like the natural stuff. But if you're gonna put tee pads, I'd prefer those.
Well, I think if they're gonna market them, they should market them as high shag. That's
High
definitely
shag.
to quote Bobby.
Put them in my car on the roof of my car, and
The high shag. Now, were people allowed to tee just left or right of those, or were there any provisions for that? Because a lot of people, and let me say real quickly, a lot of people at Memorial at home were watching, and they're like, that guy is 3 feet off of the tees, way to the right of it. And at the Memorial, they specifically set up a little extra room on the sides of a lot of those tees, so they weren't foot faulting. But did you guys have that option?
Yeah. Several holes had that extended, just a little dirt patch off to the side, just a little hash mark, just to give them a little bit of grass. Just if you're comfortable off it, you could. Okay. And it really didn't give anyone an advantage. It just made you comfortable off the tee.
A question off the board was there anything different that you experienced at the World Tour event that you haven't seen at any other PDGA event?
Besides the mass media, it was nice to see the live scoring. That was awesome. The stats, that stat progress, that was awesome. Knowing how many times I hit the circle and putts in the circles made, putts out, that was a great thing to see and keep track of. And I'm a nerd like that, so I looked at everyone's stats and just to see where everyone was at and how they did or how they didn't perform well, because it showed it all.
And do you feel like some of the feedback we got was that some individuals were keeping track of that, some groups had, we'll say, a whole manager or someone that tagged along,
like a caddy,
a caddy of sorts, or someone that was kind of helping keep track of that for others? Do you feel like there's any advantage or disadvantage as to, because we keep saying you take a double penalty, 6 on a hole, and the last thing you want to do is sit down on that metrics card and be like, all right, I was inside. Yeah, I missed twice inside the circle. Yeah, I had 2. That's the last thing you want to really do is rehash that. But was there
a couple times those guys would let you, what was your score? And just say your score, and if they didn't keep track, they would ask one of the other competitors and like, hey, does this sound right, or do you remember what happened? Just to you don't want to hash those, make them relive it. So
well, and that's one of the concerns out there.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's one of the concerns is some of these players that maybe have bad shots, or miss a 35-footer and have it get up and roll, and you got to write that all down and relive it. So it's one of the hurdles that as the pros they're gonna have to get used to, or find someone else to do it.
Yeah, but it's good to have those stats because it shows that it happens to everyone. Even the top players get those rollaways and get those OBs or those putts in the circles missed. I mean, we're all human, think that they all missed. I mean, Paul, I think, missed a couple, but not too many in the circle. But just the mere fact of going, he did, he made this many greens, and it's good to see. That was awesome to that was a new thing that I've never seen before. That I hope it continues.
Yeah, and we can't let all the kittens out of the baggies, but I know Steve Dodge and the Pro Tour have for a very long time also been working on some stats that I think are going to be very complimentary to the broadcast, very complimentary to the entire tour. And we've already kind of jokingly said, too, it's going to be funny when one stat means or doesn't match up with someone else's stat from another tour, like all the different rankings we have, so on. Well, I'm ranked 5th in the Pro Tour, but 2nd in the World Tour, and it's going to be funny. And the PDGA national world rankings have me 15th. Everyone's going to have their different stats as how they all go about it. Was there any particular stat that either you feel is most important or most critical, or one that you love seeing? Maybe I'll word it that way. Is there one that jumps out at you or like, yes, this is a no-brainer, amazing stat that we definitely need to make sure we have?
Wow. Putts in the circle.
Okay.
Putts in the circle. I've seen a lot of players, some of the best players in the world, like just amazing drivers, and miss putts in the circle, and you're going, wow, like, you need to take advantage of this. That's where you score.
Yeah, and
is in the circle, and if you can't putt from that close, then it's going to be hard to score unless you're just driving incredibly.
Yeah, unless you're putting it within 10 feet. And I think this will be good in the long run for both tours, that a player can go back and look at their stats and go, oh, well, yeah, I guess I didn't realize that I missed 57% inside the circle, or I only made 57%, or however you look at it, that I need to work on these putts, or,
Well, so I'll ask the opposite of that question, which is there a stat that you would love to see that maybe hasn't been developed or hasn't at least been shown yet? Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head where you're like, wow, that'd be really cool if they kept track of X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, it would be nice to see, like, distance off the tee, stuff like that. Like if we can somehow get some markers out there, and if somehow be like, oh, thrown about 450, or, from the range of 400 to 450 with Paul Macbeth and with Simon out there. I mean, some of the stuff, what they're doing and how far they're throwing, it needs to be recorded at some point, because they're throwing golf shots as far as most people throw their distance shots.
Okay,
360s and stuff like that,
And I'll admit, I kind of borrowed that question. Will Schustrick was doing a Periscope, I think prior to the first day, or maybe after his first round, or somewhere in that time frame, and someone asked him that question as to a stat he'd like to see, and his answer was he'd love to see the percentage of forehand versus backhand tee shots.
Sure.
And I think that could be, and then you could say, well, he's throwing someone's throwing a forehand roll or a backhand roller. I mean, you could get a little more technical, but
or what hole they did it on.
Yeah.
Because some holes you need a sidearm, and how many people are throwing sidearm to backhand. That'd be cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to. I don't know. I just thought that was a specific example, and I thought it was a great answer by him. And I think as all of our players develop and these tours continue to move forward, and we have more and more capabilities and resources, it's only going to expand and get better. I mean, the data is going to get more solid, but even the expansion of the data, I think, is right around the corner as well.
Yeah.
Do you care at all? Are ratings going to be a thing of the past? I mean, to take that one step further, when you can look at some of these more in-depth things, is your ultimately your rating going to matter nearly as much?
Not really, not as much. I mean, the rating's always been kind of a weird thing for me too, because it's based off of the curve.
Yeah.
So it really does depend on who's playing in the tournament, and who the highest rated players, and it's always kind of been a little bit foreign to me. So with the stat numbers, it'd be a lot easier to keep track of and see where we all stand just on percentages.
My shout out to Nate and Val would be that they'd love to see dots, people that draw medal on birdie attempts but don't make it. Real briefly, we all saw the shot that Simon executed. I'm gonna say 13.
No.
Is that
was it 13?
12 maybe. Where he went out of the park. He literally threw it out of the park, as they say. Can you speak to that shot at all?
Well, from the original tee, it's doable.
Okay.
I can see it happening from that tee, and even from that, it's over maybe about 600 on a pure anhyzer, and you got to put it through some power lines and over some houses, and it's a huge shot. I didn't see it from being done from that tee pad, but there's some stuff that he does that just it's unheard of.
Yeah, I think he needed to start making a push. He was definitely falling off the pace, and for him to go out and around, I'm not sure all the cameras were ready for it. I don't think anyone was really ready for it, and to see not only him execute it, unfortunately he came up short on the eagle attempt.
Looked like he was about 70 short and just couldn't quite.
But that seemed like a pretty phenomenal shot on camera. Can you think of any other times where maybe the viewers at home just couldn't quite experience really what we were seeing? I know we got to see pretty much just the back nine. Is there anything that jumped out at you where you'd like to clarify? I mean, you kind of described the difficulty of 17, but anything else?
Well, day 2 was just an unheard of rain. In California, we don't get much rain. I came from Vegas and Arizona, and it was nice. And, Arizona, especially at Memorial, you could get some crazy rain down there. To come back home and have rain, it got crazy. And we played, it was like 12. There's a little island hole.
Yep.
And it was raining sideways. It was raining up, down, left, right. It was everywhere. And I'm just sitting there on the tee going, well, I got to throw. There's a certain point where you're hiding your towels from the water, from the elements. You're hiding your disc from the elements. You have no time. Just get up and throw. The more time you take, the more likely you're going to slip or your grip's going to fail you. So that was a rough round that I'm sure the fans are going to be like, well, look at this, like watch this round, because Paul still shot pretty good, and some of the earlier rounds were really good because the rain didn't come in till about 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So the late evening, like the 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, the tee off times, they got the brunt of it. They hit it. I was talking to German. I think his hit while he was on 17. I got the sideways rain I was talking about. And I'm like, well, God, I couldn't imagine being in right there. I was under trees at least. He was wide open. So, there was a couple situations on that day where I hope the viewers know that we were under extreme rain and just trying our best to just get off that course. Try not to bogey, take your pars, get a couple birdies in between, and just move on, get off, Yeah,
you could see a lot of players, as they kept saying, rushing. They kept rushing their shots and this and that. And then you'd watch players routinely, a routine 30-footer where most players are going to draw a good medal, if not put it in. They're barely hitting basket because it's just the disc is dropping or it's slipping out of their hand. And it was
Once you change your routine and, stuff like that, you change little things like that, it's hard to stay focused, stay in your normal game, And
we're going to blame the Disc Golf World Tour for that, because I believe on Friday or Thursday they said La Mirada, the city where it never rains. Those were their exact words on the preview or the wrap-up show. Welcome to La Mirada, the city where it never rains. And the next day was brutal.
Well, I'm not going to call it quite the SmashBoxxTV bump, but we did cover 4 rounds in Arizona, and it was 80 and gorgeous.
True. They brought the rain.
They, cover their rounds, and it's raining. I'm just saying, you want SmashBoxx covered. No, before we let you get your final plugs in, we have to ask, and we know that you're not shy about it. Is Paul McBeth just unstoppable? You came up, second to him. How are you and others going to beat him?
He's beatable.
Okay.
He is beatable. Everyone's beatable. He's I think got this kind of aura around him to where he can't be beat. And when it gets into a situation where he is behind you or in front of you, it's kind of in your mind, you already know, like, well, he's coming or he's probably just going to run away from me.
Yeah.
But, and that's what's hard to focus and, just keep in your own game, because I was doing great until I found out how close I was.
Yeah.
And if I could have just stayed focused and just kept birdieing, I know I could have caught him. Mm-hmm. And those instances right there lead me to believe that, he's catchable. He's doable.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen, Germ did it at Memorial last year. I
Yep.
mean, there's several people like, and it's out there. I mean, it's trying not to beat him. Let's just beat the course.
Yep.
And that's basically what he's doing. He's outperforming us because he's out working us on the course, and out his physical fitness is amazing, so he's there putting in work. Now we need to match him, or try. It's a tough slippery slope because he's my good friend too.
Mhm.
We grew up together since little kids, and I just know that he's doing great things and he's pushing the game and he's helping us all move on. But it's great to see him perform so well. It's tough to lose, but man, to lose to such a class act player, it's not really losing to at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like taking first in the human division, is what I like to say. I mean, we had Barry Schultz in Wisconsin, and if you ever finished second to him, it still kind of felt like you won the tournament, and it felt good. Has there been any swaying or second considerations for you to pick up a pair of Mick pants, or not so much? That's not the winning ticket.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, Bobby. So we always want you to give your shout outs, your love, your sponsors, supporters, amazing girlfriends, whatever you need to do. Go ahead and let everyone know who supports you and anyone you need to
Did
thank.
you just say girlfriends?
Well, no, singular.
Okay, singular. Okay,
Some
good.
people have multiple, not
All right,
Bobby.
not
of course.
Bobby.
No, yeah, I'd like to thank Latitude 64 for helping me out this year. Cali Connection, Don and Sarah, they're hooking me up. Voodoo disc golf bags, and my lovely girlfriend, she does a lot for me. That's outside of because I'm just an athlete. She does all my tournament entry fees, and she takes care of all the paperwork and setting up my Snipe chat room here with
Yep.
SmashBoxx. That was all her. So I'd like to thank, all my fans in La Mirada for all coming out and supporting me, all the disc golfers. I mean, that event really felt like the old days, way back in the days when Barry and Ken would fly out, and it was very special for me as a kid to play with the world champion and stuff like that. I witnessed, so many great players come to my little park, and so many autographs being, just kids coming up, running up to them, and I felt so great and so honored to be a part of it and to have it in La Mirada especially. And thank you, Terry, for letting me on SmashBoxx. Anytime, I'd love to be on anytime. Just invite me.
Yeah. Well,
whenever you see a camera, just jump in front.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we say.
Step inside, as we like to say. Well, Bobby, it's been great fostering and getting to know you, or fostering our relationship, getting to know you even better over the last couple of years. I think we've got a lot more years to go here, and we wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to seeing you more on tour.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
pal. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Runner-up to Mr. McPants, Paul McBeth, this last weekend. And again, people want to accuse us of being Paul fanboys, but Paul keeps winning. So it's he's 3 for 3 this year. And until he gets beat, he's definitely one of the storylines that are out there. And
If he gets beat, where do you think it will be?
Wow. I guess I'd have to think specifically about his schedule, but
I think we actually asked him this.
yeah, I don't know. I'd really have to think about some of his scheduled stops as to where he's going to be playing. I think of a place like, some of the world's courses where obviously he, excelled as it pushed through. But I think you're going to need, to be at a place where he needs to be off his lines and it punishes you.
Correct.
Maybe a little more so than some other places. I think those are the type
a
of
more wooded course.
I'm not claiming he's not a tight, accurate
No,
wooded
of course
thrower.
not,
but I'm
but
just saying,
if he's off-
if he somehow shows up to a course one
Because-
day and he's off by 10%, that might be enough for somebody to excel past
Because we've
him.
seen in open courses, he can be off, we'll say 10%, and still hit those putts.
Yeah.
And it's no fun, oh, sweet, Paul's out 60 feet. I might pick one up on him.
Not so much.
No. But if he's off a little bit in a wooded course, he might be fighting for a 3.
That's exactly what
or
I'm
4
thinking.
or whatever you're looking at.
That's exactly it.
All right, we're going to get Zoe on the line. She's out west as well. Everybody's out west.
They are. It's the West Coast swing. It makes perfect sense when you're out at the Vegas Memorial. Now this World Tour event coming in, and then the St. Patrick's Classic, which we're going to talk about in our Yuli's picks, of course.
Yep.
But everyone's making that. A lot of people are making that West Coast swing. So it. It makes perfect sense. So, welcoming to the show, I think we're going to have to figure out who's all on board. We've got Zoe and an entire crew, it looks like.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome, everyone. Zoe, who do you got with us?
Here, let me get the camera centered here. How's
Perfect.
that?
Much
How's
better.
that?
Beautiful.
Okay. Hi. So right now I have two guests with me. I have Beth Trusso and I have Tammy Tracy, who are the tournament directors for the Daisy Chains tournament.
Awesome. Well, first of all, welcome.
Welcome to Smashbox.
And second of all, I'm going to admit I'm a little sick of hearing about how awesome the Daisy Chains is. Everywhere I go, I hear so many. And I'm going to say I live in Wisconsin, and I'm talking, 2-3 years now. I just keep hearing about this amazing event taking place out there. Why is it so great, and how do you make it so great?
Well,
Okay.
we have a lot of great women who show up to do the tournament, and there's a lot of enthusiasm amongst the women, I think, that kind of helps motivate us, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't start the tournament. We sort of inherited it and had to learn real fast how to keep up a real high level event that was going to bring women to the game and engage the pros and just try to make the best event possible.
Now, I believe when I was even out at Masters Cup last year, some of my, I'm a boy, I got to eat, some of my sandwich proceeds or the expenses or whatever you want to call it went to even helping out the tournament. So you guys are really, aren't there poker tournaments and other fundraisers basically year-round to help support the event?
Yeah, we start actually fundraising right after our event with making sandwiches at the Masters Cup Pro Weekend. So that happens, that kind of starts us going for the next year. And then we also make sandwiches for the AM weekend, which is the weekend right before us. And so we do 3 days of sandwiches for that event. And so that really gives us a lot of capital that we can use to make the tournament happen.
And now some of the support that you've gotten throughout the years includes some of our top-level women's players. Isn't that correct?
Yes, we've had 4 different winners every year. We had Sarah Hokum won in 2012, and then Valerie Jenkins won 2013, which I think was also a Women's Global year. And then we have 2014, Katrina Allen won. And 2015, we had Paige Pierce was the winner. So we're looking forward to seeing who will be the winner.
Who will be next?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about arguably 4 of the top women that have graced our sport for the last 4 years. So I guess maybe that's the ticket. You got to go play that event. If you win that, you've set yourself up for greatness forever.
I hope so.
I love that story.
Yeah, there you go.
Good luck, Zoe. Make it happen.
I mean, here's my take on it is that we have a really wonderful partnership with De La Vega Disc Golf Club and the Masters Cup. It's really a treat to be able to do something for that tournament, to facilitate it and feed all the players and have a lot of fun doing so. And then also have kind of their support in the community to make the tournament happen. My view of the world is I think Daisy Chains had a boost of bringing the pros to Daisy Chains because we were the tournament happening the weekend before the Masters Cup Pro Weekend. So the players were coming into town anyway, and it was fortunate because we provided them a tournament to come play at. That turned out to be a great draw for the AM women who have an opportunity to be playing around like with the pros and watching the pros play. So that became this great draw for new women into the game and the existing AM players, where all of a sudden they weren't just, watching the pros play. They were like literally playing with the pros. And I think that lent also a great energy to the event that I don't think we could have done it, I think, if it hadn't started out that way.
Timing is is critical. And I
But
think
now they
that,
come for daisy chains and, you know.
yeah.
If there happens to be something else around, then that's just lucky.
So with the conversation that has taken place regarding the disc golf world tour and the women and all that other stuff, I'm gonna sidestep that briefly and just say, if there were to be we'll say a women's only tour.
Disc golf women's tour?
Yeah, use the same acronym there, DGWT. If there was a disc golf women's tour, a great place to start or finish or include on the tour would be something like daisy chains. Could you see a women's tour or a series of events that take place?
For sure. Like if you're talking about like the pro level, there's definitely some events that are happening. Like daisy chains is definitely drawing the top-notch pros. There's another event in Colorado,
Women's Rocky Mountain.
It's also seems to be giving a good tournament. I think that one became biannual. I'm not sure.
Yep, it is.
And so it definitely seems like there is an interest, and I've heard rumblings that.
Well, I mean, with the chick flick every year as well, and that's right by Beaver State, or I think it's right after Beaver State, and then we've got this paired up with Masters Cup. I think Phoenix Ladies Open is at the end of the year in November. So we have these women's events that are kind of trying to couple up with or make sense with all of the tours going on, and higher interest in that. So as long as it all melds together and everybody's kind of communicating on the schedule, I think it could happen.
Yeah, for sure. That we actually are part of a series right now. It's called the Poppy Series, and I think there's about 6 events that happen that are all for women-only tournaments, and they start in April, and then they go through October, and it's the Monarch Migration at Orangevale is the accumulation of that series.
Pretty cool, actually. It's the Poppy Series, Monarch Migration, everything involved.
And I was just going to ask, because I've heard a lot about the Poppy Series throughout the years, are those events established in terms of like daisy chains being one of them, or are they kind of their own 6 or 8 events or so that stand alone as they are? Do you know what I mean? I mean, what events are all part of that? Maybe that's a better way just to ask that question.
There you go. Yeah.
Sorry. I ran.
We have a list here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So traditionally, now that we're 4 going on 5 years old, we have traditions. Traditionally, Daisy Chains is the tournament that kicks off the Poppy Series.
Okay.
Although this year they've added a new tournament, and that one starts in April. So it'll be the second tournament in this series. So we have one that takes place in Stockton. Some of these tournaments are only one day, usually 2 rounds, but one day. We have one in Lodi, California called the June Bugs. Hot Mamas in Chico. I believe Christy King is KK is the TD for that tournament now.
Okay.
Yeah, she's TD in that one.
Yep. And then Super Charlie's Angels, which is actually like a little sub series that happens. That's up in Somerset. Sand Dollar Showdown down at CUSMB, which is the college in Monterey. Mama Bears in Truckee, and then Monarch Migration, which is in October, very beginning of October.
Awesome.
So they're doing a pretty full season now in the Poppy Series. This year being April to all the way to October, and that's all pretty popular places in California, well known to play and well known that women like to travel through and check it out. So anyone out there, especially watching, again, trying to look for things or tournaments to travel to, ladies interested, guys taking a cool road trip to California, check out the Poppy Series. They're all really, really great tournaments. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, I hear about these from the other side of the country, so it's no surprise to me.
Yeah, they're clearly doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. And as you had just kind of talked about, all those events, the other events that you mentioned before the Poppy Series, when we talk about the Rocky Mountain Women's, the Phoenix Ladies, the Chick Flick, all, again, I've heard of, and I know that they have these very established turnout and just unbelievable organization. So it makes sense if there was something that could kind of generate a tour. Those sound like some of the keystone events that could be there. What would you guys say is the number one thing that makes a women's only event really successful? Because there's a lot of people out here, a lot of TDs, and they want to, men and women that want to put on good events. Could you narrow it down to just one or two tips each where you'd say, this is what makes a really good women's only event?
Well, and here, wait, before we actually jump into this, Terry, let me say, I'm going to let them narrow it down, and you don't talk about the course yet, because I think the course actually, what that does for Daisy Chains is a little bit separate.
Okay.
So go ahead. Besides the course, because we've been talking about why Daisy Chains and why this is so successful from beginning to end, from...
Yeah, I think one of the important things to recognize is that it's actually really hard for women to get away to play, to get away for an entire weekend to play a tournament, to get away from their families and their kids and work and everything they have going on. So I think you have to make it, you have to really think about a lot of the details so that when they come, they feel like they're totally taken care of, and all they have to, work on is their game when they're here. And, so I would say small things like having water, adequate water on the course, but then we try and kick it up a notch by having snacks.
There's
snacks.
There's 4 different tee pads, and maybe even 5 or 6 that have baskets with actually bars and treats and candies and goodies that you can pick up.
Yep. And then we have also adequate portalets, which if you're a guy, doesn't sound like any old thing, but if you're a lady playing in the open meadow of Pinto, it's kind of nice to have a place to go.
Yeah, I mean, we had that discussion with Paul at the memorial that we're saying that, I can't imagine how rough it would be to be some of the women during that round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. What else would you say?
Well, probably the barbecue lunch that's included 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
We've put on a great lunch. We have actually some of our local guys helping us with the actual barbecuing duties. And
I'd like to tap in there. You have to have a certain rating or Hall of Fame status actually to be able to even cook at that barbecue. We've had Nate Doss, 3-time world champion. He's been serving up a couple of years. We've got Merle at CSU, or I always say it wrong.
CSUMB.
MB, and he's doing a lot of that coaching with the collegiate team. I think he's been adopted into all sorts of different great things in disc golf. And Tom Schott, Tom Schott's one of the godfathers in the game, so he's also a cook. Every year we've got the men volunteering and high-rated caddies to spotters to chef work. And I think, again, when they're talking about the details, ladies, we are such planners, thinkers, developers on a plan that if they can come to this tournament, they've got a player's pack with really nice things in it. They've got lunch that's healthy all the way to, cookies. I like the cookies. They've got the unhealthy and the healthy options everywhere. We've got the snack baskets, extra porta-johns or portalets that are all clean. With baskets inside of there with smellies and goodies,
with supplies.
Amenities. Girls like supplies. So if you're going to run a tournament, have extra fun supplies.
We also try and recognize all kinds of, levels of play. So of course we like to kick down big for the pros and AMs for prizes, but we also try and recognize, most improved over 2 rounds. We also have a fun little thing we do called dots, where if your disc hits any metal of the basket, you put a dot on your scorecard, and anyone who, or the person who gets the most dots gets a prize. So we like to kind of spread the love around that way.
I think I heard you guys mention a little bit earlier, we haven't heard the whole show today, but didn't Nate and Val chime in?
No, Terry had mentioned, we were talking about, were we talking about to Dana about the dots, or was it?
Yeah,
Bobby?
just we were talking about statistics, and I know that even in casual rounds, me and some of my friends, back when I used to play casual rounds, we always used to talk about dots and getting dots. And then I know Nate and Val have kind of always have a running comment. Nate's been off on his putter, I'll say, at some big events, but he turns to me usually half jokingly and is like, dot, in a joking way,
Well, and I can't tell you how many dots. I mean, what if a dot was worth $500? You'd really be making a paycheck, I guess. But
Wow.
like you could really do fun things with hitting metal because they were so close to almost in. But it is again kind of a fun detail that's an added bonus at this tournament.
Right, because I think it appeals to some of the less experienced players because it's encouraging them to go for the basket. And we want them to do that. We don't want them to get shy and lay up. We want them to try to go for it. And this is their time to try that. So that's the reward, is for those who are going to try to go for it. Even if they don't make it in their, they can be earning their dots toward the dot prize. So
yeah, spreading, I would have to concur. And this, I think, can be said not just at women's only events, but any event that's really working on encouraging new players and people that are maybe a little lesser skilled or experienced in spreading the love around with all the games, like you guys said, whether it's dots or most pars in a row. So you're not always necessarily just rewarding the person that went out and played exceptionally. Yep. You could say, oh, well,
we're rewarding consistency. We're
exactly.
rewarding, just spreading the love for all types of players.
Exactly. So, somebody could go out there and maybe shoot 10 over, but that 10 over might have been their best round ever. And maybe there's some side game that they actually qualified and won in and were recognized for that. So I think that could be said about a lot of different tournaments.
And I think, I know you guys especially probably are like, oh, Zoe wants to talk about daisy chains again. And I've definitely advertised like the fundraising and the really amazing payouts and the really special prizes. But now in talking about what the importance of running a really great women's tournament is, I want to shift gears to the course. It kind of feeds along with, what's just been going on all the way to the status of World Tour events to what that course looks like and how that plays to that one division and things like that. You can narrow it down and look at how great events are due to the course in many ways. There's a couple of really big highlights about Pinto that should be talked about. In the fundraising building up to the actual play, they do a gotta go, gotta mow.
Gotta go, gotta mow.
Nice.
Because there's so much mowing to be done. It actually turns into a fundraiser event that a lot of the guys, again, and locals pitch in on. But the course itself, looking and being prepared, there's a few mowing and weed whacking sessions, tons of work parties. And then you can talk about the volunteers and the work, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's a world championship course, so it actually covers quite a bit of ground. And part of that is like a wide open area in the meadow. This kind of three parts to the course. There's you play under the oaks, you play up in the meadow, and then you play down through eucalyptus. But the part in the meadow needs so much mowing, and all the OB's lines have to be weed whacked and maintained.
We were just out there today.
Yeah, and it's looking kind of burly, but we've had a lot of rain, which is awesome.
Yeah, California is actually, it's not really the dry state anymore. It's the Widowmaker is the new nickname, in my opinion. All these trees, they had all these dried out roots. Now we have the rain saturating everywhere and trees coming down. But, work parties, mowing, maintenance, that's what makes Pinto really special because it has so much variety.
Yeah, I'd like to actually just really acknowledge Tom Schott, who designed the course, and he considers it his baby. That's when we started the Gotta Go, Gotta Mow tournament, because that's what he would always say, gotta go, gotta mow. He would be out there on his little tiny mower, watching the bugs and the birds come up in front of him. This year, Tom has fallen in love and moved to Oregon, which we're very happy for him.
Really?
But,
I don't think
Tom did?
Yeah,
I'm like,
really, that's news to me.
Yes, but it's really cool to me.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we're going to hopefully enlist the county to help us mow with their big, huge mowers, that we should cover some ground that way.
So
Nice.
I was going to say, so talking about the course, obviously this is the daisy chains. These are some world championship courses. We saw them at Worlds in 2011. Is that right?
Yep.
Do you do anything special to the actual things like the distance or the OB specifically for the women? Because obviously playing longs to long, that could make for a really, really long day. Tell us a little bit about how you address it for the different styles of play and the different women that come.
Skills level, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, well, we make everything a par three, but I would say that the majority of them are still a pretty challenging par three. I haven't really meant to check it out, but I think there's just a few that I see here. Hole 16 is, 200 feet, but that's pretty unusual. Most of them are at least 350, 400, 450, somewhere in that range. So we do make some tee pads that are specific for daisy chains to kind of shorten up those lengths. We moved some baskets, put in some new pin positions. So honestly, it is a big day for some of the rec and intermediate players. And
it's a really big
pretty
day.
challenging course, I would say.
Even for, I want to just tap in on that. So the par being at 54 and each one being a par three, it is not a birdie fest for, Kat, Paige, Val, myself, any of the open players. There are a few birdies that we're certainly expecting, but there's some that are like, you better have a throw-in for sure with a putter if you're going to try to birdie it. So there's legitimate, really, really challenging holes for us to even get the par. And then there's ones that we want to count on. And if you think all the way down to the intermediate and the rec divisions, even some of the, the AM players, all other divisions, what a challenge, because even at those 200-foot, 250-foot holes, they could have, they can ace or drive those holes, for the birdie. But then those 400-footers, that's a pretty big commitment for them. So it really is. It's a huge variety, and I want to make sure that the men wanting to promote these ladies tournaments or TDs that are trying to throw them, the challenge is certainly there. Go with the whole basic of like the idea of what makes good golf, and then maybe you can apply the distance, the world champion distance level, and then on down. So women putting us on that 1,200-foot hole doesn't make too much sense. That one's actually broken into what is that? It's a big one for us. It's like sub 500, but it's like two really great shots by us, and we're putting at it. What is it? Oh, it's 594 that they broke the 1,200 footer.
Yeah. Well.
So, but that makes sense because that's the big dog hole, when the guys are up there and like we saw those guys at Worlds at the 1,200-foot hole. We still have a huge challenge at just sub 600. Along with those 200.
And actually, I guess I misspoke because this was a new pin position for last year at 594 on hole 11, which is normally 1,288 feet. Yeah. We did make that a par 4.
Last year.
Yeah, it makes sense. And for those who don't necessarily...
People don't think we're crazy.
We're not crazy.
Well, for those who don't necessarily remember or think of it in this way, to think of Pinto specifically, you may not even realize when you trying to backtrack in your mind, that was the course at the 2011 Worlds where the semifinals and finals took place, but also that was the one with the huge keen mowed into the side of the, not into the side, mowed into that upper prairie area you're talking about.
Yeah, painted out on
the meadow.
And that was, I'll admit that, I've attended 20 Worlds now, and that was definitely one component, one aspect, seeing the video of it happening and then playing on it. That's something that I'll just never forget. And huge shout out to Keen because they're awesome when it comes to supporting disc golf as well. But that's if so. So for some of you guys are thinking, which one's Pinto? It's the one with the huge Keen mowed into the top. It was pretty awesome for sure.
I think we just talk just because you asked about OB, just take a minute
and
talk about OB,
of course,
because Pinto is basically notorious for OB, and it's difficult. And if you're a newer player, you might not understand how it all works. And one of the things we did in the tournament was I knew that I wanted to get feedback from the players, and so a couple of years ago I thought, I'll just make a survey. And I, like a few nights before the tournament, I just typed something up, copied it off, sent the survey out to everyone when they turned in their last scorecards. They got a raffle ticket in return for filling out their survey. And they told us a lot of things about who they were, the kinds of discs they threw, and what they liked about the tournament and didn't like about the tournament. One of the feedbacks was, well, the OB is so hard. I don't like the OB. And like, okay, I can understand that. Nobody really likes OB, but it is definitely a part of the course, and you need to master it. Yeah. So what we did was I said, okay, well, we need to tell the players about OB. Well, how do you do that? So I took a card, so to speak, from Masters Cup and took a template and created a caddy book for daisy chains.
I'm trying to pull that in just
Yeah,
so
sure.
to the camera. It's so beautiful.
So that we could describe every hole and the OB.
Nice.
Because the women needed to know, and there wasn't
Yeah.
going to be any way to do it more efficiently than to create something that actually had the diagrams that showed them where it was.
Really, really nicely. Just like any of us want signage, we want it all clearly posted. How many events have you heard of where the pro is arguing with whomever about what is mismarked? Again, the details, so important.
This we created this and also updated the signage at the course to reflect the new map.
Awesome.
The new yardages.
Awesome. And so just for clarity, when is the event? How many people are signed up, and where should they sign up if they haven't, if there's any openings?
Now we'll talk about how that tournament feels so nicely in a second.
Yeah, it's May 14th and 15th. Traditionally, it's on Mother's Day weekend, but this year it is not.
Okay.
As it happens. This year the tournament filled really quickly because it's also the WGE, the Women's Global event, is this year. So there was actually extra incentive for the tournament, people wanting to play the tournament, to sign up, which I have to say, as a TD, was awesome.
Double player pass, double incentive. Women love things,
and to get to get people to sign up, so we know what we're working with, is really helpful. And I feel like the first couple of years I did the tournament, I felt like a cheerleader, like, come on, let's do this. Let's get in there. Let's sign up, And this year I didn't even have time to make a flyer.
I know, before we
full.
were pulling out our hair, like,
It was
how many
full enough.
women are going to
Yeah.
show up? What if we don't make 40? What's going to happen? Well, maybe we'll make 60. I don't know. And then this year's like, oh, boom. Like,
now there's a
Those
wait
are
list,
good
actually.
TD problems to have.
Yeah, good TD. I mean, and as you can tell, that's
Decide how
that's the sign of a quality event where you start out small and very quickly you get to the point where you're not worried about filling up anymore.
and so this is this the second Women's Global event that's been a part of Daisy Chains, because this is the 5th year for Daisy, right?
This is
it would be the third because
year.
it's on
Okay.
years.
So
even years.
So we had 2012, 14, and now 16.
Yeah.
And in 2012, would you say that? Well, I guess you guys weren't running it then. Probably
There was
still.
about 40 people.
Okay, and that was big then.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, we were full, obviously, packed up full. You guys ran that event. That was the year Cat won. That was my first year down here. I think that was your first year that you guys took over. It was 2014, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
So the Women's Global event, thank goodness, Val and all of the brilliant ladies that have been a part of it, and created it. I wanted to give a little update for Val because we couldn't quite squeeze her in on the computer screen here. She's just a few zip codes away, but I mean, really, just barely missed her. Almost got her on. We wanted to talk about. I want to update. We have 1,149 players now for the Women's Global.
Damn.
1,149.
awesome.
56 events, which I think that's higher than when we reported with you and I was with Val. 56 events across 6 countries. Finland is running 4 events, 18 full divisions of women, of 19 total divisions available.
Wow.
Okay, so we have 18 full divisions. Oh, that's interesting. So a lot
The
of
only one that's not there is Pro Legends. No one signed up for Pro Legends.
Okay.
so
In WGE, total WGE.
total WGE.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're filling the young. Probably I'm gonna think the youngest is 10 and under and 12 and under.
Okay.
There could even be somewhere else something as young as 8 and under. But we just don't have Pro Legends yet. If you guys, if you're talking or teaching disc golf to your grandmothers and great grandmothers,
Bring them out.
give them the site and the information.
Yeah, because my great grandmother's up to speed on the
Yeah,
internet.
totally.
She'll do it right from her
Right
smartphone.
from her web TV.
Yeah,
Teach her how to yeah.
I'll make sure to get her up to speed on that. Yep.
Oh, but that's like amazing
is.
news. And
Those are
I would
great
say,
numbers.
again, if you want to fill your event, especially every other year with the Women's Global, don't just make the Women's Global the reason to run the event. Start your legacy somewhere and pair it up at that timing, man.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be the only spot in the country with 100 and, 80 plus women right now coming to it. Let's start one of these in every state. I'm optimistic right now, but
Yeah.
I think that planning ahead and thinking of all the information that these wonderful, wonderful ladies have told us about. We know, obviously, it takes a team of volunteers to run any event, male or female. It takes a ton of fundraising, but then all those special details and letting them know about it, really promoting everything that you've done really works well for women. So,
Well, I think we screwed up here. We have you guys on promoting the daisy chains, but it's full. I mean, come on.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Well, where can people reach out to you if they want to talk to you about the daisy chains, or if they're a TD that wants to ask how or
More detailed
questions than what we can do here?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page, just Daisy Chains Women's Disc Golf.
Okay.
Yeah, so they could message us through there or post through there actually.
Awesome.
and I'm sure you'd be willing to answer, other TDs and other people that want to start these legacies.
Yeah.
Get on there and
for
post
sure.
those things.
Totally.
Yeah, I feel like we had two really good mentors we had Christine, who we got the tournament from. She had to move to Japan, who we're excited because she's coming back to play this year all the way from Japan.
Awesome.
And Tom Schott, who's just, an epic TD and disc golfer and mentor.
Yeah.
So, because there is a lot of information out there on how to do it, but a lot of it you just you got to work it out. And so I'd be happy to give advice to anyone.
Sweet.
Yeah, reach out for
Yeah.
advice.
Awesome.
And
Templates for sponsor letters.
Yeah, Tammy's really good on
Advice
sponsorship.
about how to do caddy books and whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, just let us know. Happy to help. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
Awesome.
think the ing and the yang of the TV should be mentioned. They're not going to probably talk about it themselves, so I should say, the skills that we have from the speaking. I know Beth will do a lot more of the actual public speaking at the event, and Tammy's right down there, crunching the numbers, coming up with the formulas. I got to sit in on one of their meetings just on Saturday, which I'm thinking you guys meet probably once a month and then like weekly and bi-weekly leading up to the event. They're so organized, and they're both so talented in different areas to bring those things together and have a teamwork to run it. Again, any great event is more than one person with the workload.
Yeah, so that's a really great tip to anyone trying to run an event, like whether it's a women's event or anything. Find someone you trust, find someone you can work well with, and divvy up those jobs. And find someone who can do the back end data work, and someone who can sit up front and yell.
Yes, when Christine asked me if I would do the tournament, I said I would only do it if Tammy would be the co-TD, and she said, no, I don't want to be the co-TD. And I was like, oh. She's like, but I'll do sponsorship. And I was like, that's perfect.
Sold.
That's even
Well,
better.
Score.
There was someone else. Maybe won't name a name, but I thought that we could actually be three, and that three would make a really good core
Three would be
to
good.
to run a tournament.
Well,
And
it sounds like you guys got a great team, and everything sounds pretty good if you're sold out and ready to rock and roll for this year. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thanks for having us on
Thank you
too,
so much.
Terry.
Yeah.
I get to, my location at this point is just outside of Santa Cruz, and doing the traveling SmashBoxxTV updates and interviews. It's really special, especially, with all the hype and having Bobby on, which I wanted to say congratulations to Bobby and to Dana in their performances, and having the hype of the world tour. It was like fun for us to watch previous to coming on, and just keep doing what we're doing. And thanks for having us.
Of course.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Anytime.
Well, I will see. I think I'll see you guys in 2 months or so. I'll be out in the Santa Cruz area, and looking forward to catching up. And maybe we'll see if we can record a few things, get it in the queue for you guys as well when we're out there.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
All right.
Yes,
Have a great
that
night.
sounds
Thank you
good.
guys for all the info. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, again, we were honored that Val had reached out to us to ask if SmashBoxx would be a media partner with the women's global event. We love giving the updates. Like I said, they're doing something very, very right when you're already sold out. I guess I think back to the days when you and I worked at Best Buy. And
Wow, you're going way back.
I am, and I always used to think, even though we weren't commission, it was really tough to sell someone. You'd tell them how great this boombox or this VCR was, but you always wanted to make sure it was in stock because you didn't want to get somebody totally sold on it.
And then you look up and you're like, oh God,
yeah. You
but
love
this other one is great too.
Yeah, but they're out of stock. They're out of stock on spots, and it's awesome to hear. So find a women's global event, get out there and participate in it because it's truly amazing. I was going to tell them their numbers are probably 2 to 4 behind because I know 2 to 4 women have signed up for the Wisconsin one that I haven't updated. It's been like in the last 2 days. I know I'm way behind, but I think they can add about 2 to 4 more women to that count I know of because Wisconsin's is creeping on getting sold out itself. I want to say there's 28 or 30-ish spots left.
There's one person knows about creeping.
It's this guy.
It's you.
It's this guy.
All right, let's move on to Yuli's picks.
Hot topic. Everybody wants to talk about those.
Everybody wants to talk about Yuli's picks. We normally get to it a little bit earlier in the show, but we're glad we didn't today because of the little tech issues we had. But Yuli's not joining us today. We had a pretty packed show. We didn't know when we could get to him and whatnot, so he sent us his picks. Real quick, we'll go over last week's results. Yuli scored 2 points.
Yeesh.
He got 2 players right, and he picked 2 of the top 4, just not in the right spots. So, sorry.
Do you know which 2?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not offhand. I got 3 points.
Yeah, you did.
Because I was smart and picked Paul Macbeth to win.
Seems like a smart move. I
And
should try that.
You should. Wait, you did. You got 3 points as well.
Okay.
Because you picked Paul Macbeth to win.
Oh.
So the point standings right now are Terry with 18, myself with 16, and Yuli with 12.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna see. I think the next couple of weeks are gonna move some people because we don't have Paul Macbeth playing in them.
Okay. Yeah. So
we
need
need
a little bit more strategy.
We need to make some more strategy. Actually, we can't just ride the golden pony. So I'm gonna go with Yuli's picks first because it's after him. We're gonna do the St. Patty's Classic.
Okay.
Out on the West Coast. What city is that in?
That's Orangevale.
Orangevale. Okay, Orangevale, California. So Yuli sent us his picks right before the show. He went with winning. I'm going to go the opposite of him just to work him.
Yep.
He went with number 1, Ricky Wysocki. Taking second place, Nico. Third place, Drew Gibson. And fourth place, Jeff Bennett.
Okay.
He went. That's kind of the surprise. There's a couple guys up there.
Yep.
That could maybe have done are a little hotter right now, so to speak, like a Philo or whatever. So that's his dark horse, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Jeff Bennett rated 999 with 6 to 8 to 10 people actually rated higher than him, but he went to change things up a little bit. He went with the we'll say lesser obvious pick in Jeff Bennett, and of course, a lot of those players are all within. Oh, they're all literally within a stroke of each other when it all shakes out in a rating situation. But
do you remember your picks?
I some of those sound familiar, and I'm gonna admit I don't think I went all too crazy or off the charts here. I believe I went with Wysocki winning it. I guess we'd have to double check, but I believe I went with Wysocki winning it. Pretty sure I went with Nico taking second. I'm following down the right down the rating there. I may have gone with Drew third.
I'm pulling it up right now. So
okay, I think I went with Drew third and Philo fourth. So Simon, although rated the third highest, I left him out of the top 4. I feel bad for it, but I have a feeling this is a little bit more in Drew's neck of the woods. I expect a good turnout for him. Cam Todd, I know, has been battling some injuries, so although he's rated 10-12, he's been back and forth with some injuries.
You matched Yuli's picks 1, 2, and 3.
Yep, and then instead of going with Bennett in the 4th, I in fact went with Philo.
You
so
went with
yes.
Philo.
So I'll admit it wasn't too creative. I went in terms of rating. I went highest rated, second highest rated, fifth highest rated, and fourth highest rated. So I kind of stuck to ratings. Again, maybe not that creative, but I don't need to be creative to win. I'm here to win it.
I know.
What'd you do?
I went with Nico winning.
Okay.
Followed up by Wysocki. I think Nico he's due for one. He seems to get one win, one good win at least a year. I think this is it.
Okay.
Well, he's been a little.
He's been off. He's been
off.
working my picks.
I know. I'm going
hard.
I'm taking him for the win.
All right.
Followed up with Wysocki, then Lizotte.
Okay. And then Gibson.
Then Gibson.
So you're icing out
Gibson.
Philo here.
I'm icing out Philo. I think Philo.
You think his hot streak's gonna end?
I think his
Just
hot
say it.
streak ends. I think he's gonna finish top 5, top 6, top 7.
Okay.
But I don't think he's gonna take top 4. I think he's kind of due there.
So and if you guys want to go out, of course, we encourage it. Go out to smashbox.tv/support and then put in a bunch of money. No,
I thought you were gonna go /picks.
I know I was, but no /support. That will get us a little bit quicker to our solutions possibly. But regarding the picks, if you go out to smashbox.tv/picks, you will see that you can make your own picks and play along with us. We'd be glad to have you do so.
And if you feel like it, go to skipace.com. I'm starting a fantasy disc golf website. Oh, I should add disc golf in there, not just a fantasy website.
Yeah.
That's a different website.
Silly.
Fantasy disc golf website. I just updated it today, so I think you should be able to start creating your own leagues.
Okay.
So go ahead and test it out. I think I'm gonna try to get it completely up and maybe refresh everything come GBO. I think that's gonna kind of be the kickoff of the season. So
and then possibly we could get over this confusion as to what picks for what things people are talking about.
That's fine. You don't have to worry about the other one. All we worry about is Yuli's picks.
Okay. So. Well, there seems to be confusion out there, so we'll get it all dialed in at one time or another for you guys
at some point. All right. So other things that we have on our agenda today. We're talking about some news and social media. First things first, the 2017 majors were announced.
Yes, they were.
Everyone except for Pro Worlds.
It was a major announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do you recall where they all were?
The Midwest is keeping a lot of things. We're getting I believe the Masters is in Tennessee.
No, I believe the Am Worlds is going to Tennessee. No, I'm correct. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Masters going to Tennessee, but I know that the Am Worlds is going to the Quad Cities.
Yes,
Am Worlds,
the Quad Cities. Yep.
Okay, we got that one down.
Yeah, 2017 majors.
I believe the women.
Yep. So it says here the Tim Selinsky Masters are in Des Moines.
Okay.
The Am and Junior World Championships are in the Quad Cities.
Correct.
The Masters World Championship, as I stated, is in
Michigan, Grand Rapids area, not Tennessee.
Not Tennessee. And the disc golf the PDGA United States Women's Disc Golf Championships is in Tennessee. Okay. The women's is in Tennessee. So that was announced. No real big I say no big surprises. They're all good disc golf centers as far as
and
the Quad Cities are phenomenal.
And we talked about it a little bit earlier about being in the Midwest and everything that's awesome about the disc golf around here. That can be, that theory can be backed up by where a lot of these majors are being placed next year. We've got a lot of really good disc golf courses. We've got good disc golf ambassadors, tournament directors, areas, clubs, all those different things. So it's cool to see all these different. Someone had mentioned, when you look at the Midwest for Am Worlds, call it fair or not, but 2014 being in Minnesota, 2015 being in Michigan, 2016 here in Madison, I was going to say Milwaukee, in Madison, and now 2017 going over to the Quad Cities. Again, very blessed. Now, the flip side of that coin of somebody complaining or saying it's all the way over in that part of the country, if you also look at the player base, we have one of the strongest player bases. So if we're centrally located in the sense that a lot of our draw, and a lot of our concentrated people are in those areas as well. So it makes sense in that way. Now, if you're in California, yeah, you may say, well, it sucks. I got to go to the Midwest for the 4th year in a row. First of all, you shouldn't be playing Am Worlds 4 years in a row. But second of all, and it also, a lot of it comes down to who applies.
Correct.
If the PDGA is not just going to randomly grant some random city or club and say, oh yeah, you're Am World, you're getting an Am Worlds, you have to bid on it. And if you don't put up a solid bid, you don't get awarded the event. It's really quite simple.
And Kevin McCoy is out here on the board saying that there's just not a good enough bid yet for Pro Worlds, and the backup is Georgia. So we'll see what happens. They got a little bit of time, not a lot. I mean, that takes some effort to get that moving. So hopefully we find someone that's willing to step up, and otherwise everyone's going to Georgia. Not a bad place to be.
No, it's going back to the Augusta area, whether, I'm assuming they're talking about having it out at the International Center, especially with the new change in terms of the format. Having it at the International Center would be very possible to do. And then just Augusta in general has some solid courses that obviously have hosted both Am and Pro Worlds in their heyday. So 96 Am Worlds, 2006 Pro Worlds. So there's some options out there. You include the Hippodrome, Lake Olmsted, Pendleton King, all those different courses in the Augusta area, and then you have the International Disc Golf Center. So, there's something to be said about quote unquote having that as a default. Somebody says they're ready to see it in Charlotte again. Charlotte's got the courses. The question is, do they have the manpower and the tenacity to return and to take it all on again? It's easy I'll say this, it's very easy to always suggest some other city host it.
This would be a great place to have it.
Yeah, you guys should do it over there. Well, as a guy who's hosted an Am Worlds, it's not as easy as just telling someone where to go do it.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, do we want to dig into the Sarah Hokum post?
I think we can lightly touch on it. I think we've already had a long night technology-wise, but to lightly touch on it, Sarah Hokum, for many of you that saw it, had made a very pointed post, really expressing more than anything frustration.
Yeah, I'll say with a very clever addition to the Disc Golf World Tour logo.
There's been a few different iterations of the Disc Golf World Tour that have been mocked up and modified to get her point across. And Sarah Hokum, our 2012 Women's World Champion, needless to say, she's very disappointed. She's frustrated and disappointed in that the fact that the Disc Golf World Tour didn't include women, and this has really been
as a separate division.
And this is really, I'll say, it's not a new agenda or narrative, because the day UC announced it, he was challenged with people asking why there wasn't a separate women's division. So we're not going to rehash everything, but Sarah definitely made a very strong post about it, and she's received, from what I could tell, almost complete agreement. Now, granted, those are our friends, and I'm not sure how many people are going to go out of their way to go argue with her on her post in this case, but she's received a lot of support and agreement with her, stating that there should be women's divisions, and they really agree with what she's saying. Jamie Thomas, acting on behalf, I'd say, of Spin TV and a little bit on the World Tour, kind of wearing both hats in this case, he made a post out on Disc Golf Course Review, more or less stating that wasn't their goal, that wasn't the vision of the World Tour, at least for this year. And he used an analogy saying, if you go into one restaurant expecting, steak, and they don't serve shrimp, you shouldn't get mad at them and demand that they serve shrimp. And that was kind of his analogy to saying, UC's putting up the money, UC and his crew are making this event happen, and they made a decision for multiple reasons to not include a separate women's division. And, that's kind of his decision to make. So it's a very hot topic button. And we could sit here. I've been around disc golf a long time. We all have been. We've seen a lot of things. We can argue. What's the saying? 6 ways to Sunday.
Yep.
6 ways. We could argue all day about it, about some of the finer points, the bigger objectives here, details. It's out there. So you can go out, read for yourself as to what you think. I don't know if we have an official position other than the World Tour.
Everyone has their right to do what they want if they're the one running it. You may not like it. It's unfortunate, but you can't please everybody. And unfortunately there are other options for Sarah. You know, she may not get to play that event, but she can play. There's a lot of other events for her to play. And, and like we talked with the daisy chains, maybe DGWT
could be the Disc Golf Women's Tour.
Can be the Disc Golf Women's Tour in the future. That would be.
That'd be. I think they'd probably come up with a different acronym there.
Just switch 2 letters. Disc Women's Golf Tour.
Yeah, exactly. So there are, you can go out and read it for yourself, make your own judgments or assessments as to it. We talked about it. Kat opted to play in at the World Tour of this event, finishing 1 stroke out of the cash. I think it was awesome that she was there. And I'll go another step further and say, I think they went out of their way to really highlight the fact that they did have Katrina there and wanted to acknowledge her and wanted to, I don't want to say pat her on the back, but they really wanted to acknowledge and commend her for being there and for, playing as well as she did. Yep. And beating, almost 2/3 of the men.
And I'll play devil's advocate. There's an argument to say, would she have been there if Paul wasn't there? I mean, if she had a chance to go somewhere and take first, second, or maybe third at a slightly larger women's event, would she have played the World Tour? I don't know. I mean, but I'm glad she did play the World Tour, and she proved that, she can compete with a lot of those guys. So, and so for all you people that complain when we show the women, she's beating you.
Yeah, I say that all the time.
So
it's amazing as to what our top women competitors are doing and how they are better than 99% of the other people that throw discs around.
For sure.
But we all know everyone's got their likes and their preferences. We are seeing some recorded footage being rolled out. I believe Jomez Productions is working on getting rolling out his hole-by-hole coverage that he was brought in to do as part of the action that's out on Spin TV's site for the next few days. And I had a brief conversation with Ian over at Central Coast today, and per agreement, which he agreed to ahead of time, just like we did last year at USDGC and all the other YouTube channels, he will be able to release some of his footage and other things that he had done. He'll be able to release those after this Saturday or Sunday or whatever.
It's like a 7-day waiting period.
Yeah, exactly, which is exactly the practice that we had in place at last year's USDGC. So nothing really out of the ordinary there.
So some other Disc Golf World Tour thoughts I have kind of sketched out here. I'm going to put a Bobby Brown EMAC disclaimer out there saying anything we say negative about the broadcast or everything it could come off as sour grapes because it's not us. So this is not this is just some observations. I think they did a wonderful job. I think that they did, especially for Jamie and Avery's, first. I mean, they did some in the European Open. They worked together there, but this was their first time kind of on the ground, walking along, doing what they're doing, kind of what you do out there. So some of the qualms or issues that I had, for UC saying that this tour is all about the promotion, the media, getting it out there. I had an issue personally with him putting the live scoring behind a more or less a sign-in wall. I thought it was short-sighted. I know UC wants the information. He wants the email addresses because you can do marketing. You can push out your product. You can talk like this. I just didn't like the idea of him putting it behind a sign-in.
So for what you're referring to specifically, for those who didn't know, you were able to obviously go out and watch the broadcast for free.
Yes.
You could watch the live scores roll in for free. However, if you specifically wanted to see hole-by-hole breakdowns and the metrics, at that point you needed to create an account. And now when you did create an account, you also were eligible to win something.
Correct.
They said there was going to be a giveaway. I haven't been notified yet if I won, but
hold your breath.
There was a giveaway,
Sure.
So that was kind of part of it. If you registered, you created an account, and you were able to see the metrics, the hole-by-hole breakdowns. That's what you're saying.
The live scoring,
yes.
Not the live broadcast. Live broadcast was free and clear for everyone to see. It was the live scoring. I wasn't a big fan of that personally.
Okay.
People were complaining about 9 holes. Jamie went out on Disc Golf Course Review and explained exactly why. We kind of brushed on that earlier, that this was their first time and they wanted to kind of take some baby steps before they got up and walked, so to speak. So good for them. They did what they did. They set a standard and they stuck to it. So, and I think, like I said, I think they did a good job. The metrics themselves, really cool. I enjoyed it.
Yep.
As you know, that was one of the things I liked about I didn't like about having to log in, because I wanted to see the metrics. So of course I created an account and did it. The one metric that I still think is kind of, I don't like, or I don't find a use in yet, is the OTP, the outside the circle putts. Okay. Where they just basically count how many you have, and then
I think it's OCP.
OCP.
Come on, get it right.
Outside this, okay, whatever. Where then you more or less, if you get, how many, they average out how many you get per 18 holes. How many outside the circle putts do you hit per 18 holes? So you get a star if you hit 3 of them in 18 holes. Obviously, what your average is what it is. Because I saw Paul had a 1.7 was his outside, so he hits 1.7 putts outside the circle. I just don't think there's that much that valuable, in that there's no difference if someone drives and puts it just outside the circle but misses every putt, or puts it outside the circle and hits every putt, but if you never land inside that circle. Sure. It's a goofy stat, and it's going to get better, I think, as things go on. So I'll be curious to see how that comes or goes, or how it changes, or what other stats they can kind of roll into it. So yeah, and we said it before, the Pro Tour and other tours, and as all of this continues to develop, it's only going to get better and more useful. This is the more in depth, yeah, and all of those things, and I think everyone's excited for them, and it's just a matter. It's just a matter of how much they get used. And I'll admit, for being a fan of disc golf and playing 20 some years, I think stats are great, but they don't mean that much to me. And I know how useful they are, and I know there's thousands of people that are going to love them and won't be able to shut up about them. I personally, I think about the individual shots, I think about the moments of the win and all that other stuff, but stats can certainly help you shape and mold an entire story. So it's not like it's a bad thing we're going to have them. No, not at all. Stats are kind of like that next step your sport takes. Once you can start organizing and accumulating stats, it becomes easier to push your product on other people, so to speak, so you can give them a better breakdown. You can't, you could say, oh yeah, Paul's the best putter inside of 60 feet, but what, that's great, that passes the eyeball test, but there's really nothing on paper. So we'll see how they kind of flush out over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, as to what we see.
And I think that's going to continue to be one of the challenges, is we talk about things like needing volunteers for events, needing people to help out with our broadcast, needing every event needs spotters, and then there's a caddy association. Mm-hmm. There's all these different needs, and now we're furthering, and whether it goes on the shoulders of the player or on yet more volunteers, that's that many more hands on deck that are going to be required at a tournament. If we want these stats to be accurate, they need to be on top of them all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you could say this about every stat out there, because clearly Aaron Rodgers' passing percentage can certainly be 100% affected adversely by it raining out, or it being 10 degrees
or
versus 70 degrees, or his receivers. So I understand that too, but I do think about, look at the conditions at La Mirada, and if somebody's might have been a 58% inside the circle putter on Saturday, mm-hmm. but they're normally a 98%, but it was sideways rain.
Yeah, and those in rounds like that will average out over the long run. If you're going to have eventually 200, 300, 400 rounds, and you see these outliers, or these, maybe of those rounds you had 10 of them in the rain, you're going to see those level out. So you're not going to notice the 1 or 3 low percentage inside the putt circles, inside the circle putts, whatever, stats.
Yeah. So. Well, I'll admit, Ronald, I really appreciate your comment saying, does anybody care that the putt Paul hit on 16 at USDGC was either inside or outside the circle? And it's funny because he was outside the circle, and he was technically OB. And I remember that putt so vividly because it was just such a moment at the USDGC. And you're speaking exactly to the point I just made, that I wouldn't necessarily think about it in terms of a stat. I think about that putt and the moment and the, call it a turning point or whatever. I think about the emotion that's attached to that more so than the statistic of him making it. Because
you were there, but arguably to you, who's the greatest baseball player of all time?
Ryan Sandberg. That's for you, Kevin.
No. I mean, we'll just say in baseball circles, Babe Ruth, they say?
Sure.
Because of his numbers. You and I never saw, but it was growing up, we knew he was the greatest. You can make arguments now whether Barry Bonds or whomever, but looking back, all we have are statistics to really determine that. He was the home run leader. He was, he was a good pitcher at the time, whatever. So people aren't going to remember, people remember Babe Ruth's called shot, so to speak, if it really happened or didn't, whatever. People will remember the putt that Paul made, but when you look back, that's going to be one putt as opposed to saying, oh my God, Paul was a 70% outside the circle putter or whatever the case may be. So
yeah, it will be awesome. And the only other argument will be, well, my Disc Golf Pro Tour stats say this and my Disc Golf World Tour stats say that. That should be kind of a funny conversation.
Yeah, we could, I don't know. As I say, we could see a time when maybe they'll be combined or someone will combine them.
Maybe.
But who knows? So
when does the PDGA update as to player rating? That, if that's what you're asking about, I'm not sure, but it's going to probably be relatively soon. Yeah, number of fairway hits. And again, it's got to start somewhere. I think about fairways hit. I mean, that means so many different things on so many different courses, really.
Yeah.
And, I think of a place like the IDGC. There's a lot of really narrow fairways. And if you're a foot off the fairway, you could be in a world of trouble. Or, obviously you could be 30 feet off the fairway, but happen to have that line. We're just not as defined when it comes to fairways as golf is.
Yeah, fairways don't have a true definition for us yet. Whether it's because, in golf, you can say, right where the mowed grass changes heights.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't really have that.
It's something that was chatted on the board here is talking about like a clutch stat. I equate, if you could come up with, dare I say, a clutch stat, I would equate that to something in terms of like a slugging percentage almost. Maybe, in some weird way. And I don't know where you'd come at it.
Your batting average with runners in scoring position. I think that's more of a clutch stat. Is that what slugging is?
I'm pretty sure that's what slugging percentage is.
Is it?
Somebody can correct me.
And I don't know.
I hope to God I'm right, so you can look dumb on that one.
All right.
I think that's what slugging percentage is.
Is it?
Let's find out.
We're going to look it up.
We're going to prove just how.
Is a measure of power by the hitter. It is calculated as total bases divided by at-bats. So it's the number of at-bats versus number of bases. So no, completely wrong.
Damn it. All right. I didn't
know if it was part of the stat that included, but no, that's not slugging percentage.
Then somebody can clarify. Yeah, it's total bases. All right, somebody clarify. Oh, luck stat. That's a good one. Somebody clarify what stat I was referring to.
There's on base. Yeah, so I know specifically there's a stat for runners and it's baseball. There's stats for everything. There's stats for days when it's sunny versus days when it's cloudy. But yes, I would think clutch for baseball would be like your batting average with runners in scoring position. And for
correct, that's what I thought I was referencing then.
For disc golf, would you say like, putts
to keep you within so many strokes?
Yeah, to keep you within so many strokes with so many holes left.
Yeah, it would have to
something
be some
weird,
kind of
something strange, some strange formula, something we can get Chuck on.
Yeah, I'll say this: I'm not a big fan of or worried too much, and I know I'm going to contradict Bobby, a previous guest here tonight, a little bit about distance off the tee. That can be great, but we all know sometimes placement is so much more valuable than distance, and how often are these players throwing as hard as they want? So
I would rather see. And I'm going to come up with this off the top of my head, something along the lines of percentage of distance from basket, something weird like that.
Yep.
So you could say, oh, most people on this hole come up, 50% because the hole is, 800 feet.
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to I threw 400 feet. But on a hole that's 200 feet, most players are getting within 95% of the basket or something along the, and it's a hole by hole stat, of course. I mean, that's not or you could maybe figure it out per person. So there's all sorts of ways to massage statistics, and
I can get them to say whatever I want, any kind of stats, right? It's and they're coming up with a bunch of great ones out here that could, those are some variations of them. Ground kicks versus tree slaps versus, distance mini is kicked.
I said that earlier, the mini kick distance.
Yep, that could certainly be one. Drives without hitting obstacles. I mean, that's a funny one too, because if you really think about it, and sometimes you see a slight tree kick that actually is totally advantageous.
Yeah,
to
keeps you
where
from
it's
going OB or directs you towards the basket.
Or spectators hit. That should be a stat.
I think Johnny McRae's already winning that this year.
Unfortunately for him, I think he is as well. I know people do want to see how far they throw, but I think
distance isn't. I mean, nobody cares.
It's not such a measure in a lot of our courses. Yeah. The distance isn't as critical.
Even in ball golf, it's not that critical.
I think, like you're saying, it needs to be somewhere relative to the hole, for the simple fact that when they're playing a 369-foot hole, a lot of our top players aren't throwing as hard as they can. And so to say, well, he averages 369 off the tee, or he averages 380 off the tee, I don't know if that matters.
It all depends on the courses you play. Smashy statistics.
That's what I was going to say is, we definitely, a few of these we need to get serious about and brand them as our own.
Ooh, good
even
call.
if we do have to somehow keep them as our own and come up with them and compile them. I think a few of these need to be our own.
I want worthless statistics.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, just things like trees hit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, congratulations. Oh, dude, did you see that Paul's leading in trees hit?
Yes, that would be awesome.
That's amazing, and he's still winning. So
dots, that would be a good place to start, to lead with dots. Oh, that might actually work some people up when they hear about it. Like,
the dot statistic.
Hey, sorry, I'll just pick a random name. Hey, sorry, Bobby Musick, you're leading in dots so far.
No, just making a putt doesn't count as a dot.
No,
you have to hit metal but not make it.
Yeah, I think there's some foot faults unnoticed. That's
the number of times Terry says
anyway. That's every once in a while.
Oh, they did. I'll say this.
How many times the podcast crashed tonight? We don't have time to add all those up.
I can't add that up. I'm calling out Avery and Jamie.
Okay.
But more so Avery, because he overused the same word that you did.
And I heard it.
Perfectly.
And usually it's prefaced or preceded by absolutely.
Absolutely perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfectly.
It's
an easy
it
phrase
totally is.
to use.
I was sitting on my couch and I'm watching and then suddenly I heard Avery break it out and I went, like, wait a minute. Like,
yeah.
That's a patented Terry phrase.
It is.
Because I tell you to stop saying it.
Yep.
I'm on the phone with you and I say, okay, enough of the perfect, and it's hard to stop. I get it.
It's hard to stop, especially if you're seeing perfect shots.
I know, but there's so many of them. And
I know.
It's just, you just have to not say it, and it's tough. And I give Avery and Jamie both credit because they did a good job on their first being thrown out there.
I heard it too. I've shared that with somebody else. I said he does the same thing I do. Is he says, that was perfect, or absolute, or it's and I'll speak to this. Saying the word absolutely in confirmation with any conversation is very easy to do too. Because I could set you up very easily, and really the best thing you can come back with is absolutely. Like, it's an easy thing to say.
It's a crutch.
But to go with the absolutely perfect, I would bet Avery maybe even said it more than I did this week. I heard a lot of them. And I'm not making fun of them because it's easy to do. And
it's very easy to do.
So that was kind of funny to notice. Cleaning up used to be a big Terryism. Yeah,
cleaning up and makes good.
Yep, makes good. A little short. I mean, like I said, I need to be more diligent about being a little bit more descriptive because I know I can be. I just haven't been. And Avery was really good at exposing that by doing that himself this weekend.
Sure.
So I learned. Yes, I am cutting down on the makes good. Yeah. So anyway, lots of random things, and it's funny what we pick up from other teams, other groups, other combos out there.
Yeah, and they. I'll say this on one of the one of the downsides of the broadcast was the number of assets they had didn't quite fit the number of holes they needed. So
by assets, what we mean are
commercials or little breaks. Like you saw that we were again sitting on the couch, and I'm watching, and the very first break we have, they go to some animated spinning logo that keeps bringing up sponsors,
Okay.
and it would explode. There's like explosions back, and my son, he goes, "Oh, I like those explosions." I go, "Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's a nice graphic." And then it went on again and again and again, and he goes, "What are you watching?" And I go, they're filling some time because you can hear Jamie talking behind it, and while they're moving, so they don't have to show the camera move. But it was that particular asset I was sick of seeing by the end of the weekend. So, but again, people can say the same thing about some of the stuff that we do. People get sick of seeing the same commercial. The PDGA, it's in the air. If people never see that one again, I think it would be too soon.
Yeah. So there's lots of different little things. And
I loved watching because I picked up on things. I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I got to try to do that, or I got to make sure not to do that. And everyone learns from watching each other.
Well, and even the phrases, I think I also heard somebody say something. I think it was Avery or saying something about tickling the chains, and I think that's a line I've used that others use.
It's generic.
I'm not claiming any of them.
Yeah.
When I think I heard, I don't know if it was am side or pro side. I think it was just weak side, strong side. Either way, those are references I personally have stayed away from.
They were all Billy Crumpisms.
Because I feel like they were brought in by someone else, and they weren't something I necessarily said. So it's not necessarily a line that I like to use.
Sure.
And so when you hear people or you talk to people, or depending on the area you're from, you pick up on these, and it's tough to draw the line as to which ones are your own, maybe, or which ones you do or don't want to play into because they might be famously someone else's.
Sure.
I at no point have I said like warm butter on a hot roll. I've never used that Billyism.
No.
He's got a bunch of great ones, and I make it a point to try not to use them because I'm not
them.
Billy.
Yep.
So
it would sound weird coming out of you.
Exactly. Risk it for the biscuit. Yeah, that's another one I have not used yet, but I do really like it. That's more of a hashtag for me. I'm more likely to use it than a hashtag.
All right. Do you have anything? I think we've covered Disc Golf World Tour stuff. I think we're good there. Good job, guys.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Do you have any other news? Do you have any notes?
I really don't. I think the big things were obviously the World Tour and the coverage for it. I think Sarah Holcomb was, the whole conversation that surrounds that. Bobby Musick, we appreciate it. We obviously appreciate getting the updates in terms of the sold out daisy chains. So that was great to have Zoe on site to be able to give us some details. I would like to make a quick, it's not so much a plug and it's a little late, but I'm going to be at Throwdown the Mountain this upcoming weekend. In fact, I fly out tomorrow night.
Really?
We got to thank Mike, who said that he was able to help me out with a car and a hookup there. And so I'm flying out tomorrow night to head to Brooksville, Florida. There are 2 A-tiers going on, I think, anywhere in the country. That's the St. Patrick's Day Classic and the Throwdown the Mountain presented by Discraft, which is a Mike Barnett and Sun King production. So I'm excited to go to that event for the 3rd year in a row. I still do get a little bit humored by them calling it a mountain. It's
it's a hill.
I think there's hills outside your house somewhere that I could go find that are bigger.
Like a berm.
Yeah, but in terms of Florida sense, I understand that they that they think it's awesome. So, and it is. It's an awesome piece of property that Mike Barnett pays thousands upon thousands of dollars to rent for a few weeks just so that disc golf can be played there, and everybody in Florida knows it and likes playing golf there. So I'm not discrediting it at all. It's an awesome piece of property. It's just, like I said, in Wisconsin terms, for instance,
not so much a mountain.
It's not so much a mountain. So I'll be there covering that. Super excited about it, and look for some coverage. Obviously, it'll be recorded. We're not going to be live with Smashbox, but it will be recorded, and I'll get it out as quickly as I can so that everyone can enjoy that. So I think 3 rounds of 18 is the plan for it, the A-tier. So, Nathan in Australia wants to have a mountain measuring competition. I don't know about that. That sounds weird.
No.
But I think that's all I got for actual show stuff. So if you're good, we can wrap it up. We'll have a really brief after show here. We won't go on too much longer. So we do want you to stick around and we can chit chat about a few more things. So for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, all the guests I just mentioned, all the supporters, all the fans, everybody that stuck it out to have to have nearly 80 of you come back after some technical difficulties. We do appreciate you guys tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. So this has been podcast number 80. We'll see you guys later when you step inside the Smash Box.